Okay. Sorry about that. Welcome to our virtual meeting. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. Members, if you're able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you're able, please activate your video when you are speaking. All panelists have the ability to mute and unmute themselves. Please continue to use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak, ask questions, or request a roll call vote. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak. The name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The city staff will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the ALRC, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Mr. Verbeek, do we have any notified absences?
We do not.
All right. Call this meeting of ALRC to order at 5:36 p.m. Will you please call the roll? Oh, I'm sorry. I got out of order. I'll be right back with that. This meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order. All speakers wishing to address the committee regarding an agenda item must first complete a registration form and submit it to the city clerk designee. Speakers may speak to the committee only after they're called by the chair. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. The public is not allowed to address or respond to speakers or committee members unless they have been recognized by the chair of the committee. So we've already heard the notified absences. Call to order, 5:36 p.m. Mr. Verbeek, will you please call the roll?
Alder Miadzi?
Present.
Alder Miadzi, present. Alder Revere?
Here.
Alder Revere, present. Baruchuk?
Here.
Baruchuk here. Reese?
Here.
Reese here. Farley?
Present.
Farley here. Donnelly?
Present.
Donnelly here. Westra?
Here.
Westra here. Alder Carter?
Present.
Alder Carter here. Fletcher?
Yeah.
Here we have quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, first order of business is approval of minutes from July 20th, 2022. Committee, what's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Your motion to approve. Is there a second? See a second from Ms. Westra. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Minutes from July 20th are approved. Next is minutes from July 27th. Committee, what is your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher?
Move approval.
Your motion to approve from Mr. Fletcher, second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Seeing none, motion carries. Public comment. Jim, are there any registrants for general public comment?
There are not.
All right. Disclosures and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any such disclosures or recusals? All right. Presentation of the consent agenda. At this time, Mr. Verbeek will present a consent agenda, and someone will move to take the recommended action, which will be to grant each item or other things as we'll be told about shortly. Any items which have registrants opposed wishing to speak, items which members have separated for discussion or debate, or items recommending ordinance changes or operator's license applications will not be included on this consent agenda. Mr. Verbeek, will you please propose the consent agenda?
Certainly. The proposed consent agenda for August 17, 2022 recommended council to grant operator license application item 3, temporary Class B retail license concurrent with strict use permit. Item number 6, change of agent, item 7, and entity reorganizations 10 and 11, and refer to future meeting of the ALRC, change of license premise, item number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Verbeek. I should ask, one of the items on the proposed consent agenda is an operator's license application. Is that because it was approved by the subcommittee for operator's license application review and referred back to us?
That is correct.
All right. And is there any, are there any legal or, I guess I should ask Assistant City Attorney Brist, is there any legal or procedural issue with having that on our consent agenda, given that it was discussed and debated in subcommittee?
No, the committee would be basically adopting the recommendation of the subcommittee by adopting the consent agenda.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Committee, what is your pleasure? Mr. Burshak.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right. Motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Second from Alderman Yancey. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. The consent agenda is adopted as proposed. So that takes care, that brings us to item 2. Item 2 is an operator license application for Shane Bick. Do we have Shane here?
We do not, but we do have one item that has requested interpretation. However, oh, never mind. I do see someone registered. I don't know if they're here yet, though. I'll leave that up to you.
Since we've already started it, let's carry on with this item. So item 2, operator's license application, Shane Bick. Is Shane here with us?
No, nobody's registered for this item.
Okay. It appears that Shane was also on the agenda last month and was not here. Committee, what is your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Given that the applicant has had sort of 3 different opportunities to appear before either the committee or the subcommittee, I think that the subcommittee is recommending placing the application on file without prejudice. So I would move to adopt the subcommittee's recommendation.
All right. Here a motion. Is there a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item 2 is placed on file without prejudice. So, Mr. Verbeek, you said we have an item that requires a translator?
We do, but I don't see the person has registered, but I don't see them in here unless they've called in. But I don't see their name on the list. All
right. Well, then why don't we proceed with the agenda in its order as printed, and if they appear, we can jump ahead to them. Otherwise, we'll get to their item when we get to it. Item 4, operator's license application for Kirsten Teal. Is Kirsten here?
She is.
All right. Kirsten, can you please introduce yourself by saying your name?
Hi, my name is Kirsten Teal.
Kirsten, excellent. And Captain Zanders, can you please let us know why Kirsten's application was flagged for our attention?
Certainly, and good evening, Mr. Chair. I'm having some trouble with the camera, so please forgive me as I go through this technical difficulties. However, good evening, Kristen. I'm Captain Zanders with the City of Madison Police Department Central District. My role on this committee is to conduct a background check and view supporting documentations that are contrary to the guidelines bound by the ALRC and in accordance with state statute. It is not my intent to cause embarrassment or to belittle anyone. I reiterate, my job and my role is to forward information discovered in the background process. In viewing your background process, I did observe 3 items of concern which came to my attention. Item number 1 would be under the guideline of 1, which states, provided the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstance of the job or licensed activity, any person who has been convicted of any felony, unless duly pardoned, does not qualify for an operator's license. Back in October 7th, 2022, you received a conviction for OWI, third offense, with an underage passenger. This incident occurred on November 28th, 2019, and the arresting agency was the City of Madison Police Department. This is kind of your opportunity to articulate the events of that evening. I will state that that also rolls into guideline number 2, but I will give you the floor at this time.
I did plead guilty to that. And yes, I was at fault. I'm not going to deny anything. However, under your guidelines, I have also successfully completed your
I can't hear what's being said, if anything.
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, I'm not going to say that I didn't do it, but at the same time, I do want to say that under your guidelines, I did successfully complete your third offenders program without one single violation. This solely has to do with my job and moving forward as a manager, where I do not serve drinks, but I do have to have an operator's license just so that people under me, when I am managing them, can continue to serve alcohol. Otherwise, I cannot successfully move job and become a productive member of society.
Thank you, Kirsten. Captain Sanders, were there subsequent flags?
Affirm, and I have to state a point of clarity. I believe I misspoken when I said that the date was October. The conviction date was in October of 2022. That was actually October of 2020. I think the circumstances surrounding the situation is extremely concerning. However, it did lead to, like I stated, guideline number 2, which states, provided the circumstances of the offense that substantially relate to the circumstance of the job or licensed activity, any person who has been convicted of or has a current charge pending for 1 or more offenses within the last 5 years, or for 2 or more offenses arising out of separate incidents within the last 10 years in the following subcategories. And this is going to be a parents B, which means crimes involving cooperation or lack thereof with the law enforcement officials. Reference this incident that occurred back on October. It should be noted that there was a refusal to take a test for intoxication after an arrest. So that would be a violation of that guideline. And then the last one would be guideline number 5, in which the applicant must truthfully completely fill out an application, and to note under the section, list all citations, tickets, municipal ordinance violation, and crime convictions, excluding parking tickets. None of your convictions were noted on your application.
They were all actually noted. I had help in this. They should have all been noted, because I marked it noted as a felony. Even my job knew that it was a felony. They knew it was a risk hiring me when they hired me. And I've been able to productively move up. And even though I wasn't convicted until 2020 because of COVID, I was actually arrested in 2019.
All right. I'll say one thing and then call on Dr. Reese. I'd just like to remind everyone that whether somebody needs an operator's license for their job is not one of the factors in our determining the appropriateness of issuing that license. Dr. Reese.
Thank you, Chair. Kirsten, I just want to clarify. So we're looking at the application, the operator application filled out, and it doesn't have any of your tickets or charges listed on that you would have filled out. So I don't know if you're talking about the job application where you're saying you did list all of that you had help, but on the operator application, we're not seeing that filled out. So I just wanted to clarify that.
That would have been my job that filled out that for me. But it was filled out on my job application. So they knew about it so it should have been filled out because my job actually filled that out for me.
Okay. And then you said you completed the first or the third offenders program. And are you saying, when you say your guidelines, are you talking about the city?
The third offenders program here in the city of Madison, I completed that entire program exactly almost 1 year to the date. It was 1 year and 2 days without fault.
Okay, great. And is there anything else you can tell us about that? Like, have you been getting any alcohol treatment or anything around those issues?
I actually continuously go to AA. I've been sober for almost 3 years. So.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. Alder Carter, then Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, my question is, you made a comment that the manager maybe filled this application out for you. Were you with your manager when they filled it out, or did they just fill it out on their own?
So essentially, I was with her, but she filled it out and all I had to do was sign it when I walked into the office. And she's actually no longer a manager anymore. She transferred to another store.
So did you review it when they filled it out? Because you were adamant that these things were on your application. So that's why I'm curious.
I'm guessing it was, you know what, I should have reviewed it a little more in all honesty, because I'm guessing I thought it was going to be it essentially auto-filled it from my application, but it was on my application. So I didn't review it that well, but I should have. Because I would have definitely put it on there. Have no side steps or anything. I admit to everybody that I'm a felon, and I admit to everybody that I had a problem, and I admit to everybody that I am a recovering alcoholic. But I don't think that should maybe ding me as not being a productive member of society or being able to move forward in my job.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alder Carter. Mr. Fletcher.
I guess, Kirsten, you know, and I hate to sort of belabor this point, but you said that there was sort of this sort of auto-filled from your job application at Quick Trip, or the information they had.
Yeah, when they do it, they send it through and all you do is sign it. And then we have to fill out the certification numbers and then submit them to you saying that, yes, we went through the alcohol training process.
And Kirsten, you said that you signed the application, correct?
Yes.
The actual operator's license application.
Yes.
So at least in you know, I don't know if you can see the packet or seen it, but we don't, you know, at least in the packet that we have, we don't see any sort of electronic or handwritten signature, at least. And Jim, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Is that their application signature then?
No, there's no signature affixed to sort of this particular operator's license application.
Yeah, I was going to mention that it looks like this was submitted online. So they probably went to our online portal and submitted the application there.
Correct. We did everything online.
Okay, that answers it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Committee, what further questions do you have for the applicant? All right. Thank you, Kirsten. Dr. Reese.
Sorry, just thought of one. Kirsten, how long have you been working in this particular role? And did you work in any similar roles before that?
Before this, I worked for CarMax, and before that, I worked for a restaurant. But since CarMax and then COVID, I came in and I've been at my job for almost a year and a half a little over actually.
Okay, thank you.
And I've been in a manager role for almost a year.
Got it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Reese. Committee, any further questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, Kirsten. Committee, what is your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
So I get the sort of technical issues with respect to sort of or the application. I will admit the kind of series of OWIs and the most recent OWI, concerns me, though. Again, the applicant did note the successful completion of the program afterwards. The other part that sort of troubles me a little bit, regardless of sort of submitting online or not, is the either A, failure to disclose the 3 OWIs, or not sort of reviewing the application enough to sort of see that those had not been disclosed on the form. I do appreciate, I think, Kirsten's sort of candor with the committee tonight, but it does sort of bring me slight pause before approving this particular application on my end.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Alder Carter.
I have the same concerns. Not reviewing something that you're going to submit and then have to basically talk about what you submitted and omitting some of the things. But more concern is the fact that the statement that it was auto-filled. Auto-filled and not reviewing it is concerning to me. And that's where I'm struggling.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Dr. Reese.
Just quickly, I just wanted to check to see if Ms. Farley was able to talk. It seemed like maybe you were trying to *6 or something, and I see you're in the attendee list with your hand up. So I just wanted to see if you were trying to get in to say something.
Yep, I was just waiting to be called.
Okay, sorry. I just heard you press button, so I want to make sure. So, yeah, I share the same concerns as my colleagues. I do want to say to the statement that Kirsten made about not letting record it shouldn't make a lifelong determination of who you are as a person. We do review these because it's state law, and 2, because our job here is to protect the health, well-being, and safety of the community. So that's why we take these very seriously. And on applications like this, what we're looking, just for other people who may be up before us in the future, we're looking for you to be transparent with us. This isn't meant to be an inquisition. It's something that we struggle with as well, but by state law, we have to review these things. So, if anyone is going to be filling this out in the future, definitely just list it all right up front. It's always easier that way. And we just need to ask you about it and know what happened. So, and I recognize that that's a hard thing to get up in a public meeting and talk about what weren't the best moments of your life. I do want to point out that the first 2 were pretty long time ago. We're looking at 2010 for that second one. And then the recent one was 2019. So I'm not as concerned about those 2 because those were, over a decade ago now. The more recent one, I do appreciate the fact that the program was completed and she's been in this job role for quite a while.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Reese. Ms. Farley.
Yeah, I would also like to echo my colleagues here. I feel similarly. I think I feel difficult. It feels difficult because I agree around the transparency, but I also understand some of the difficulties with a lot of the paperwork that goes into these applications and things like that. So I guess my I don't know if this would be a question for legal counsel or for the committee, but as a committee, what options do we have to get maybe some additional supporting information around her completion of the program, or recommendation or kind of validation that this was included on her job application, but kind of got lost in translation?
Assistant City Attorney Brist, can you help?
I would suggest that in order to get that information, you would have to refer to this to the next meeting, and then have the clerk staff probably look for answers, or for the applicant to supply the answers.
Ms. Farley, does that give you what you need?
It does, yes. I think I would feel more comfortable making a stronger decision, having kind of some confirmation or support information that we would be making the right decision and extending the license to the candidate.
All right, thank you, Ms. Farley. Alder Carter.
Completion is probably, can you hear me? Because it says I'm muted. Oh, okay. Completion of the program for me would be more relevant than the application for Quick Trip. And she can supply that to the clerk's office.
All right, thank you, Alder Carter. Committee, any further discussion?
I just wanted to add that historically the committee has made approvals contingent upon submission of a completion of something that would otherwise satisfy their needs to it. So there has been that.
That is true. If I'm reading Assistant City Attorney Brist correctly, it's the difference between we would like information that we can evaluate to help make a decision, and there's information that we want to confirm, like, okay, is this fact true? Yes, then move forward. So that's the difference. If you want to know something so that you can deliberate, you should get the information. So a motion would be in order if someone would care to make one.
Otherwise, I do have one more point. So I do see the applicant's hand. I would be willing to ask the applicant a question to see if they have an electronic copy of what you're looking for. And if they don't, then we can move on. But if they do, that's something that the applicant could potentially send us tonight.
If you would like to ask Kirsten a question, by all means.
Kirsten, I just have one quick question for you. I see your hand up. All my question is, and all that you should respond to is, do you have a electronic copy that you can send today, or would you need to send a physical copy in the future?
Can I drop off a physical copy tomorrow?
You can.
Okay, because that's one thing that I can do. I believe I have a physical copy of it. And then the other thing is I actually am meeting with Breck Anderson, who is my probation officer, which I actually finalized my 2 years of probation, and he can provide physical copies of that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Kirsten. All right, Mr. Bruchak.
Thanks. So we can get the relevant information and evaluate it. I would be interested in both the completed application, confirmed, signed by the applicant, and the information from the probation officer. And for that, I move to postpone this decision to next meeting.
All right. I hear Mr. Bruchak's motion to refer this item to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting. Do I hear a second? Alder Carter.
On readiness, what are the 3 documents that we look forward to receiving?
I'm going to ask Mr. Verbeek to answer that because he is most likely to work with the applicant and be able to tell her that she has gotten everything we're looking for. So, Jim?
The question is on what documents that we're
Yes.
looking for? I know she mentioned completion of the third offenders program for the county or for the city of Madison and potential documentation from her PO. I don't know if there was other documentation. I can't recall.
Mr. Bruchak, Alder Carter, anyone is welcome to chime in.
The third document that I had in mind was the completed application.
The operator's
an amended
license.
copy of the application with the added offenses.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Dr. Reese.
Just throwing in there, if we want to get that signature on the application, just to avoid any technology barriers, I would suggest that when the physical copy is dropped off, that the application could be signed at that time, so we don't have to worry about technology. That's all.
A capital idea. Ms. Farley.
Yeah, I would suggest that along with the physical application for copy of the license application and with signature, and a copy of the completion of the program, along with confirmation or support from the applicant's PO, I would feel comfortable moving to grant with those contingencies rather than holding off to the next meeting if those requirements are met.
Very well. Any further discussion? Alder Carter.
Don't we have a motion already on the floor?
We do. So
okay.
We'll vote on that one, and then if it does not pass, we can have another one.
I'm sorry, who's the seconder on that motion?
I do not recall who
on
seconded.
The first motion, it was me.
Okay. Thank you, Alder Carter. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Verbeek, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Okay. Hold on, there we go. Okay. Let's see, Alder Revere.
Could the motion be restated, please?
Yes, it's a motion to refer to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting.
Aye.
Alder Revere, aye. Barashuk?
Aye.
Barashuk, aye. Reese?
Aye.
Reese, aye. Farley?
Nay.
Farley, nay. Westra?
Aye.
Westra, aye. Alder Carter?
Aye.
Alder Carter, aye. Fletcher?
Aye.
Fletcher, aye. Here that is 6 ayes, 1 nay.
All right, the motion carries. This item is referred to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting. And Kirsten, please do check in with the clerk's office to make sure that you've been able to provide all of the information that the committee is looking for so that we can make an informed decision at the next meeting. Okay, so that brings us to item 5. Item 5, operator's license application for Mona Torres. Is Mona here with us?
Mona is here with us.
Okay. Mona, can you let us state your name for the record, please?
Hi, my name is Mona Torres.
Excellent. And Captain Sanders, can you please let us know why Mona's application was flagged for our attention?
Good evening, Mona. In viewing your application and during the background process, 2 items of concern came to my attention. The concerns noted have been identified as conflicts pertaining to licensing guidelines 1 and 4. Guideline 1, provided the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or licensed activity, any person who has been convicted of any felony, unless duly pardoned, does not qualify for an operator's license. Your incidents list: on March 23rd, 2012, in Walworth County, you were convicted of your 4th offense OWI. On May 10th, 2013, you were convicted of child abuse intentionally causing harm ×2, which is also a felony. On May 23rd, 2019, you were convicted of your OWI 5th or 6th offense in Dane County, referencing an investigation conducted by the Madison Police Department on September 8th, 2018. This is also a felony. Reference the incident surrounding the MPD investigation. While you were operating your motor vehicle, you were hit by you hit a parked unoccupied vehicle. Upon officers arriving on scene and upon running some forms of standard field sobriety tests, it was determined that you were under the influence of intoxicants. Once at the public safety building, you provided a blood alcohol content of 0.173, which is over the Wisconsin legal limit of 0.08. At this time, I will turn it over to you to discuss with the committee these incidents.
Should I speak?
You may do so.
Okay. So I've been an alcoholic for many, many of years, and I take accountability for all my actions. My 4th OWI was in Walworth County, and I was put in the county jail, released on the bracelet, drank while I was on probation, and was then sentenced to prison. The child abuse, I hit my son while I'm intoxicated, and therefore his father put a child abuse charge on me. I'm not sure. I have a lawyer looking into getting the second one expunged because I don't understand why there was a child abuse charge with my daughter. I never hit her, but I do take accountability for being drunk all the time, drinking every single day, and drinking around my children. And I did my 4 years prison time, didn't get any help in prison, got out in 2017. And then in September of 18, I did drink till the early morning hours. I went out to my car because I asked my boyfriend to take me to McDonald's. I evidently went inside the driver's seat, turned on the vehicle. We live on a hill. It slid down. I told the police that the vehicle hit me because I was drunk, and I didn't realize that I had hit that person. And after reading the police report, I understand that I was the one at fault. I went to prison. I got revoked on probation, on parole. Went to prison, got convicted for 18 months in 2019 for my 5th. That time I did get help. I completed a 6-month AODA program, which I submitted a certificate for. Then when I got out, while I was in prison, I chose to get on antabuse. so that it would help me with any type of alcohol. And if I do drink alcohol, I get severely sick. I'm still on Antabuse to this day. I haven't had a drink of alcohol. I've completed my driver safety plan. I did complete therapy. I completed fundamentals of addiction groups. I completed relapse prevention groups, which I submitted proof for that. I got involved with a company called Just Dane, who helps me, and they help women, I should say, reintegrate back into society that were just incarcerated. And she comes over either on a weekly or bi-weekly basis and can attest to, I think she might be on Shanita Lawrence. I have a stable home life. I'm happy now. I don't drink anymore. I'm still on Antabuse. I choose to have my ignition interlock, even though my JOC only said 18 months. I keep it on my car at all times. I don't want to drink anymore. I take accountability, and I'm sorry. I just don't know why I did what I did. But yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Mona. Mr. Fletcher, then Dr. Reese.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mona, I appreciate your detailed sort of walkthrough with the committee in terms of both some of the incidents that are listed on the summary and the steps, obviously, that you've taken since. I just wanted to sort of confirm a couple of things. You'd mentioned that your kind of sobriety. How long has it been since you have sort of had alcohol?
September 3rd, 2018.
Got it. Okay. And then, Mona, I did want to just clarify one statement sort of you made versus sort of what's on your application. The sort of child abuse sort of kind of charges and the convictions there, was one of them with your son? You were under the influence of alcohol at the time, the one that you're not sort of seeking to be sort of removed from the record?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay. Then I think, yeah, I just want to clarify that versus I think in the application it was marked as a no. So I just wanted to clarify my understanding of that. So again, I appreciate your sort of detail that you've provided to the committee. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Dr. Reese.
Thanks. Mona, I'm sorry if you already said this, but can you tell us a little bit about the job you have and how long you've been there?
Okay. I've been there since October of last year. I am a cashier. I work with customer service, and I do have to sell alcohol to customers, or bring them up for alcohol, I should say. And there hasn't been any incidents. And even though I have taken care of customers that purchased alcohol, I am still completely 100% sober, attending AA 3 times a week.
Thanks. And so I looked at the letter that Ms. Lawrence sent, and I think it said 17 months on your reentry journey. So I was just curious, because I know you said 4 years. So were you out on extended supervision, or did you start working with them while you were inside?
Okay, so on her letter, my reentry was 17 months ago, and I've been working with Quick Trip since November of last year. She said work employment at Quick Trip for almost 1 year, but I have been out since March 31st, 2021.
Gotcha. Okay, I think those are all the questions I have. I'm really happy to see that you have so much support, and I hope that you'll stay connected. to those programs. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. Committee, what further questions do you have for the applicant? Captain Sanders.
Mr. Fletcher had advised, or asked the question, I should say, when was the last time of consumption of alcohol? And I just want to make sure that we have clarity on this, as it was stated, it was September 3rd of 2018. However, the incident within MPD occurred on the 9th of that month. I mean, I'm sorry, the 8th of that month.
I'm sorry, that.
All right, thank you, Captain Sanders. Committee, what further questions do you have for the applicant? Dr. Reese.
No further questions. I move to grant.
I hear a motion to grant. Do I hear a second? Second from Ms. Westra. Any discussion?
Can we do a roll call?
We absolutely may. Any further discussion? Mr. Verbeek, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Alder Revere.
Aye.
Alder Revere, aye. Barshuk?
No.
Barshuk, no. Reese?
Aye.
Reese, aye. Farley?
Aye.
Farley, aye. Westra?
Aye.
Westra, aye. Alder Carter?
Aye.
Alder Carter, aye. Fletcher?
Aye.
Fletcher, aye. Sarah, the vote is 6 ayes, 1 nay.
All right, motion carries for item 5. Operator's license application for Mona Torres is approved. Our next item is item 8. Item 8, entity reorganization for the Laurel Tavern at 2505 Monroe. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
We don't. I did send an email from the applicant to explain it, because they indicated they would not be able to make it due to staffing issues at the establishment.
Thank you. Committee, what's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
Based on the information Jim provided, I'm comfortable with a motion to approve.
All right, I hear a motion to approve item 8. Do I hear a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Ms. Farley?
I was seconding, sorry.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries on item 8, and the entity reorganization is approved. Next up, item 9, entity reorganization for the Jenny Street Market. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
I don't believe we do. We do not.
All right, committee, what's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
Move referral to our next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting.
All right, do I hear a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item 9 is referred to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting.
Chair, the item that requires interpretation, the applicant is here now.
All right. Which item number is that?
That'd be 19.
Item 19. So that's a new license for Laura Garden at 1403 Regent Street. So, Mr. Verbeek, would you please swear in the interpreter?
Hi, let me have you raise your hand. There you go. Do you affirm that you'll accurately interpret English to Mandarin and Mandarin to English?
Yes.
Excellent.
All right. So do we have a registrant here for this item?
第19号项目。
Okay. Can you introduce yourself, please, and describe to us your proposed business?
那能不能自我介绍一下，然后跟我们解释一下你的申请的企业是什么？
They need to unmute themselves.
您现在静音了，要把静音关掉。
Okay, you're unmuted.
可以说话了。
So please introduce yourself and describe what kind of business you're planning to have.
所以能不能自我介绍一下，然后跟我们解释一下你是打算开的是什么企业？ Is something muted on your end? Is it possible she's on the other channel? I don't know how this works. Is she?
Oh, the
channel,
interpretation was ended, so there are no other channels right now. So they should be on the main channel.
Never mind.
That's just so everything ends up on the recording.
Joe, do we have any idea what's going on?
I do not. Can you translate? Just ask him maybe to leave and come back in.
那么因为我们现在听不见，你现在说什么我们都听不见，所以能不能试一下，先下线，然后再重新登入这个会议？ Okay. Well, at least she heard me.
Okay, can you hear us now?
现在听得见？我听得见你了，我可以听得见。Okay. All right, we're good.
Excellent. Will you please state your name and describe the business that you are proposing?
那所以自我介绍一下是什么？姓名是什么？然后能不能给我们解释一下你是提议的企业是什么类型的
？OK， 我的名字叫希王，我想就是申请一个烈酒牌，然后我想一起卖酒，然后就是那个像小超市那种食物加工的食物。
So my name is Xi Wang, and I'm applying for an license, an alcohol license, and it's kind of like a small grocery store, like a convenience store that would be able to kind of have some like processed foods.
All right. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? For anyone who is not experienced speaking to somebody with a translator, speak directly to her rather than asking the translator to tell her things.
那么现在委员会的成员有没有什么问题要问申请人的吗？
So what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Brushak.
Hello. Is this mostly food or mostly alcohol?
那么你的是想卖，主要是卖食物还是卖酒？
就是酒跟食物一起。
Food and alcohol both.
Follow up, if I may, Mr. Chair.
那再有一个跟进的问题。
If you could say what would be more, or are you telling the committee that you plan for it to be half food, half alcohol?
那如果你推断的话，会是卖食物更多，还是酒更多？还是你是推断一半一半？
食物更多。
More food.
All right. Alder Carter.
Yes, you stated that you would have more processed food than a grocery store. I'm just wondering why you wouldn't have checked convenience store without gas pumps if you're going to have more processed food than freshly prepared food or fresh food.
对，我的一个问题是，因为刚刚你提到说是会卖一些加工过的食物，但那么就申请表格上面没有勾便利店，就是 convenience store， 为什么没有？或者是因为你按照你的说法是或者是如果是超市的话，为什么没有新鲜的食物？
有新鲜的，就是有新鲜的食物，也有冰冻的食物，然后再加工有一点食物，就好像说就好像说我有一个 lunch box， 或者是说我有些食物煮好的已经包好的，人家被那个小学生过来拿就好了。
Yeah, there's going to be some fresh food, some frozen foods, some processed foods, and some foods that are going to be pre-made. So, it's kind of like a pre-made like lunchbox that students would be able to come in and grab like for a quick thing.
Okay, thank you.
好，谢谢。
All right. Ms. Farley?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to get a better of the business model. It seems to me kind of like a deli situation of, I would go there to pick up some nice things, maybe food that's cooked to go, and then maybe like a bottle of wine or something like that. Is that an accurate representation?
那就我想对你的企业就更进一步了解一下。那我的设想是更像一个熟食店，就是在那边已经有熟食可以买，然后可以顺便再买瓶酒带回家，是不是？你是这个计划，这个想法？
是的，是的。
Yes.
Yeah.
谢谢。
All right. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant?
那委员会的成员有没有什么其他问题要问申请人？
Ms. Farley?
Yeah. So I believe that there could be concerns around definitely the area being so close to the university, and it did say sounds like you mentioned students as kind of your main clientele. And I'd like to just get a better picture of if you are mainly focused on targeting university students or the like atmosphere that your location would have.
所以我对你的你的地点好像有一点顾虑，因为地点跟学校特别近，所以你的客人是针对于学生，还是对其他人，还有你的店里面是打算是什么样的一种环境？
那肯定是卖酒，肯定是其他的人咯，食物就是学生咯。
Yeah, so with like alcohol, it would be targeted toward other people, and the food would be targeted for the students.
Ms. Farley, do you have additional questions at this time?
Farley 女士有没有什么其他问题要问的？
All right, Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I just sort of will piggyback on Ms. Farley's comments and be sort of more specific. The question I have for the applicant, so how have her interactions with the neighborhood associations gone, and sort of where is the applicant from her perspective sort of in conversation with the neighborhood?
我就再跟进前面一个问题，就再问一下，那么申请人有没有跟小区的协会 the neighborhood association 有没有任何联系？然后对于跟小区的协会联系之后，他的印象是，就周围的邻居对这个店是什么想法？
我有跟那个社区的那一天有一个 meeting， 但是我不知道他们有没有跟他一些 report。
So I did have a meeting with the association the other day, but I'm not quite sure exactly what the report was after that meeting.
So, I mean, I guess one of the questions and Alder Evers may sort of, I think the committee received a note just in advance or for the meeting. Well, I think one of the questions is, the sale of sort of liquor, from your potential establishment. From your perspective, Laura, were there concerns that were raised about the sale of liquor?
因为我提到这一点，主要是因为在会议开始之前，就市议员呢 Evers 有给我们委员会给发过一份邮件，就是说过这小区里面就邻居对卖烈酒这一方面可能有一些想法，有一些顾虑。
OK， 但是那我也不知道怎么样说呀。
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that.
我想应该没有关系吧。每一个我看每一个地方都有卖烈酒的，每一个社区都会有。
Yeah, because I feel like there's places that sell liquor pretty much in every neighborhood. So I didn't think that would be as much of a big deal.
Last question. Could you make this concept work without the sale of sort of spirits, as it were, or liquor?
那么最后一个问题就是如果去掉烈酒的话，你觉得你这家店能够经营吗？
经营是肯定是可以经营，但是说都会有一些影响嘛。如果是卖酒的话，会对我的生意会有一些帮助。
I think it's still operable, but obviously without being able to sell liquor, that would affect my business.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course. Mr. Bruchuk, then Ms. Farley.
My question is for either the chair or whoever can answer it. Is Alder Evers here, or is any representative from the neighborhood?
Alder Evers is here. I'm getting an echo. Alder Evers is here. We generally will ask all the questions that we have for the applicant, then talk to other registrants, and then we can go back and hit the applicant again.
原来的问题就是想了解一下，这市议员 Evers 是不是在，或者是有没有任何代表，就是这社区协会的代表。市议员是在，所以通常是先如果有任何问题问申请人的，先问完以后，再会去跟市议员来讨论。
All right. Ms. Farley.
Yeah, so if I may, I have kind of two questions here. The first being, if I am a customer and I walk in, can you speak towards the type of liquor that would be marketed to me, as far as type of liquor, maybe like quality or price point?
The interpreter didn't actually get, that was a little choppy. Sorry. Can
you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just asking towards kind of the type of liquor and perhaps the quality and price points of the liquor that would be stored or sold.
对，问题是你有没有考虑过如果是烈酒的话，是卖哪一系列的哪一种类的烈酒，还有就什么质量的烈酒，然后价格是开在什么程度？
那应该有低的、中的、高的都会有吧
？We'll probably carry, all the like low, mid, and high grade. We'll probably have all of them.
Okay. And then my follow-up question here is I imagine it can be difficult when speaking to the community if there are language barriers. And so I wanted to give the applicant an opportunity to speak towards whether it was clear to them that the sale of liquor was a concern to the Vilas Neighborhood Association.
最后一点就是，我也就想表达一下，我能够理解，就在有语言障碍的情况下，跟社区里的邻居还有社区协会去沟通，可能是有一定的困难，所以我想问一下，了解一下，就申请人对于邻居对卖烈酒这一点有顾虑的，就这方面是不是了解，是不是明白清楚他们的顾虑？
他有说了，我有清楚的。
Yeah, they mentioned it. They mentioned it, so yeah, I'm aware of it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Farley. Committee, what other questions do you have for the applicant?
委员会有没有什么其他问题要问申请人的？
Okay. Mr. Verbeek, what other registrants do we have for this item?
Verbeek 先生，有没有其他人注册为这一项目发言？
I do not see any other registrants for this item.
Okay. Alder Evers, you've been kind enough to join us. Is there anything you would like to say to the committee?
那市议员 Evers 有没有什么想跟委员会的成员说的？
Thank you, Chair. I will try to go slow so my comments can be repeated.
我尽量说的慢一些，这样的话，能够可以被重复。
As I indicated in my email that you received prior to the meeting, Ms. Fillion, I hope I pronounced that correctly, appeared before the Vilas Neighborhood Association on Wednesday, July 27th, and made a presentation regarding her plans to open her Regent Street establishment. There were many questions. And I will add that, well, I'll pause there.
所以按照大家应该可以看到，我在会议之前给大家发了一份电子邮件，里面说，这菲利恩女士在7月27号星期三和Vilas Neighborhood Association 和大家开过一个会议，讨论在 Regent Street 上面想开的那个店面。当时大家有很多问题要问。
Several of those questions had to do with the application at the time, which made mention of counter service and some dining taking place on site. It was confusing to the residents at the meeting, and the answers were not particularly satisfactory. The primary objection to the residents at the Vilas Neighborhood Association centered around the sale of hard liquor.
有一部分问题是对于申请表格本身，当时在那时候申请表格上面有提到过有一定的柜台服务，但是这所有的信息有一定的搞得有一些混乱，然后给出的答复也不是大家对给出的答复不是特别的满意，但是最终最大的反对还是关于有卖烈酒的这一部分。
The Vilas Neighborhood Association voted unanimously at that meeting to recommend to this body that this application be placed on file without prejudice. They communicated to the applicant that they would welcome a business that provided carry-out deli foods, prepared foods, items like sushi and things like that. And as well as the sale of beer and wine, but strongly opposed hard liquor. The applicant, the very next day, submitted a new application, removing any seating or making clear that they would not serve food or alcohol on site, but did not change their application with respect to hard liquor.
所以当时Vilas Neighborhood Association 他们一致的投票说第一他们是建议这个委员会今天把这申请能够先归档因为对于这样的店他们是很希望也很欢迎有这样的企业能够加入到他们的社区里，特别是有可以外卖的食物或者有熟食还有寿司类的这些食物，还有可以买一些啤酒或者是葡萄酒但是激烈反对卖烈酒 之后这申请人又递上了一份新的申请表格，把糖吃的这一些服务给去掉了，但是没有去掉卖烈酒的申请。
The applicant, when asked about the hard liquor sales and whether they could survive if they did not sell hard liquor, indicated that they had owned this space for 3 years and had not been able to do any business, and that the sale of liquor was very profitable, and spoke about that this was somewhat of an exigent circumstance, kind of an urgent circumstance to be able to make the business work. I will ask that this committee turn down this application, send it back to the neighborhood association for more conversation. The neighborhood association wants to see this business succeed, but believes it's possible for them to do so without selling hard liquor. And I think more communication would be very helpful. Thank you.
对，当问到申请人，这个店如果不卖烈酒的话，是否可以营业？申请人有提到，他这个楼房已经买了有3年了，然后一直没有能够一直没有能够赚钱，所以如果就可以卖烈酒的话，应该是对经营一家店的成功率会有很大的影响所以我是建议这个委员会是能够拒绝这个申请，然后让申请人再回去跟社区的协会再能够更进一步的去沟通，让他们可以讨论一下，因为他这社区协会也非常愿意他们的社区里面有一个店能够提供这方面的服务，但是需要更进一步的沟通。
All right. Thank you, Alder Evers. Mr. Bruchak, then Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you. Alder Evers, how many members of the Vilas Neighborhood Association weighed in on this issue? You said it was a unanimous vote, but how many votes were there?
那市议员 Evers 的 Vilas Neighborhood Association 有多少个人参加了这次投票？刚才有提到，这次投票还是一致的投票，但是究竟有多少人参加了？
Thank you. I don't recall exactly how many people attendance at these meetings are usually around 10 to 12. And the summertime, sometimes less. I don't specifically recall.
我不记得当时那一天有多少个人参加，通常是有10到12个人，有时候会少一些，但是那一天我不记得具体有几个人参加。
I will add, if I may, that Midtown District Captain Jason Friedman had also expressed concerns based on his prior involvement in the Central District with a business run by this applicant. Also had concerns about liquor licenses in this particular area on Regent Street. And the problematic aspects of young people getting a hold of hard liquor, someone 21 buying it for a younger college student, and the issues around, Badger football games and things like that. So it was an opinion that was not just from the folks at Vilas who have lots of experience with Badger football games, but also the Midtown District Captain.
所以如果我能够补充一下的话，是 Midtown 警察局的队长 Jason Freeman 他也提到过对在此处能够就买卖烈酒的方面也有一定的顾虑，因为他一直在中区的警察局办公，也看到很多类似的例子，就是比如说满21岁的人帮助未满21岁的学生买酒，特别是在橄榄球比赛的时候，经常会有这种事情发生，所以这个警察队长也对这一点有顾虑，不仅仅是社区的邻居。
All right, we will hear from Mr. Fletcher next, and then from Associated Students of Madison Representative Deacon Boggs. Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderevers, I'm assuming from a technical perspective, well, let me scrap that. The impression I'm getting is that the neighborhood would prefer not to have a liquor store there, but in the case that is trying to work with the applicant to get something, let me say, that is amenable to the neighborhood in terms of its what it would, I hate to use the word tolerate, but I'll use it for this circumstance, right? Would that be a fair summation?
那么我就是想理解一下，澄清一下，是不是那市议员？那你的意思是说，这社区协会就街坊邻居，他们虽然说不一定希望有一个店是提供卖酒的，但是为了这个店的生存的话，他们是能够容忍就是能够容忍他们卖酒的这个事实，是不是？
Yes, that's very much the neighborhood association's approach. The people more than once said we would appreciate the convenience of prepared food. The applicant said they would have a kitchen off-site and often sell prepared food that could be taken out. But they did not feel the need for sales of low, medium, and expensive hard liquors in this particular location, and to have shelf space devoted to hard liquor, and did not see this as necessary or needed in any desire for this in the neighborhood. And we're hoping for a business plan that could succeed in the absence of that. Hence, the reason why they specifically requested that this permit be placed on file without prejudice is that they hope the applicant will come back to the neighborhood association and come back to ALRC with a business plan that meets the needs of the neighborhood without causing some of the negative side effects.
是的，这社区的协会他们有表示过，他们很期望有一个店能够提供这方面的便利，比如说有熟食可以很方便的能够买到，但是他们觉得他们的社区不需要有场地能够很方便的买到这种烈酒，特别像这种店里面它不需要有特制的就可以放特制的卖酒的区域，像这种店它这个社区是不需要的，所以为什么他们的社区协会特别请求委员会能够把这一项目先入党归党，然后让他们可以让这个申请人能够再回到去跟社区协会再进一步商讨，这样的话能够达成一个双方都满意的一个申请。
Do you believe, Alder Evers, that a month is a long enough period of time to whether the committee places this on file, or what our more standard practice, I think, would be, which would be to refer this to our next ALRC meeting. Do you believe that that is enough time for these conversations to occur, and for the neighborhood association maybe to come back with, specific, conditions about, if they want anything, if they're recommending anything else above and beyond sort of no hard liquor sales?
那么事业员 Evers， 你觉得1个月是不是足够的时间，让申请人和社区的协会能够再进一步讨论，然后达成一个双方都可以满意的一个结论？或者是如果这社区协会有除了不想卖烈酒的这一条，如果想提出其他的要求的话，你觉得1个月的时间是否足够双方进行这样的讨论？
If the item is referred to your next meeting, it would provide the applicant the opportunity to attend the next Vilas Neighborhood Association meeting, which would be next Wednesday, August 24th. Provide an opportunity for another conversation, and to see if the applicant then could come back to ALRC with any changes to their application that may in fact be something that I, as the alder for the district and the neighborhood, could support. Most specifically, the condition of no sale of hard liquor.
如果委员会可以把这一项推到下个月的会议的话，那么这申请人可以参加这社区协会的下一次会议，也就是在下周3 8月24号他们会进行会议，然后到那时候申请人可以来参加会议，继续讨论和商讨，看一下能不能对这企业申请的计划方面能不能做一些更改，特别是把卖烈酒的这一项如果能够去掉的话，我觉得如果这一项能够去掉的话，这样的话我觉得我个人还有这社区是能够支持这一项申请。
Last question from me. You mentioned Captain Freeman, and I think there's been prior correspondence indicating sort of his thoughts. Has he said anything more recently since the July, I think, emails that we've seen? And maybe that's a question for Captain Zanders as well.
I did have a conversation. Oh, I'm sorry.
对，最后一个问题就是你刚刚有提到 Freeman 队长对这一方面的顾虑，那最后一次你们有沟通是7月份他有发过来一份电子邮件，那在那之后有没有再进一步的跟他沟通过？
Captain Freeman was not in attendance, nor was anyone else from MPD at the July 27th meeting of the Vilas Neighborhood Association, but we did have a conversation via Zoom in early August. We regularly check in with each other, and at that time, he supported and welcomed the vote of the Neighborhood Association. He continues to have concerns about additional liquor licenses in this area and felt like this particular application was not ready for PrimeCon.
那 Freeman 队长还有警察局的任何一个成员都没有参加7月27号的社区协会的会议，但是我们在8月初有通过 Zoom 有碰过面，也有交谈过，他当时他表示他会支持社区协会他们的投票，然后他也觉得如果能够就更进一步的讨论，还有对于这个整个区域里面所有的卖酒场所的数量也表示了一定的顾虑。
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
谢谢。
Thank you. Mr. Boggs.
Hello. So this is a question for the applicant. Considering that this is the Regent neighborhood and Badger Games are contentious time and in that area, I was curious what the business owner's intent for the space would be during said Badger Games. I know a lot of Regent area businesses either lease off property to other businesses, conduct events, share events, and I was curious if that was something that they would be doing, if they intend to be open during Badger Games, and as a general follow-up to that, if the business owner might be amenable to the idea of limitations on the sale of alcohol at their property, such as limiting periods of sale, similar to how some grocery stores might also function, where alcohol sales cut off at a time earlier than what is allowed in the state of Wisconsin.
那我的问题是就如果我们考虑到这家店的地点就是在 Regent Street 上面的话，那我们要考虑到就打橄榄球的时候，就是或者是任何就是Badger Game 在发生的时候，因为在 Regent Street 上面很多店都会把他们的场地在有比赛的时候把他们的场地出租。那么你有没有这一方面的打算？还是你有没有考虑到在有任何活动发生的时候，你是不是打算营业还是不打算营业？还有在这些在进行比赛的当天，有没有考虑过对，比如说对卖酒或者营业方面有没有想过要设置任何限制？比如说在合法的在合法停止卖酒的时间之前会提早停止卖酒。
那我应该正常的时间还是早上9点到好像9点到9点吧。如果是特别那个的话，那看情况，应该是到9点钟就关门吧。
I think normally for normal operating hours, I think I would just still do the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And in terms of those special circumstances, we might have, maybe I'll just do it depending on the circumstance.
Thank you for that response.
谢谢你的。
All right, Mr. Boggs, do you have further questions?
I do not.
Okay. Ms. Farley, then Alder Carter. Ms. Farley?
Yeah. So I would just kind of like to remind the committee that we have seen successful examples of kind of the deli model of packaged goods with liquor and with fresh food as well. I think of Alimentari. I know there are concerns in the neighborhood with the sale of liquor, and I'll echo my colleague here in that I think it would be worth exploring what potential restrictions or limitations could look like, whether that be opening for beer and wine and then exploring reapplication later on, or opening with a liquor license and having a limited range of liquors that they are allowed to sell, limited shelf space or limited size. I know that's something that we've done for some other places. But I also agree that I think it is worth us holding off on a decision until both the applicant and the neighborhood association have the opportunity to explore those areas for compromise.
所以我就是想 提醒一下委员会的成员，就是他这种熟识的这种企业计划的话，就有这类型的潜力的，但是我也是能够理解社区对卖烈酒的这方面的顾虑，所以我想提议一下，我们能不能先考虑，就是比如说先批准啤酒和葡萄酒，然后以后再增加到烈酒，或者是如果开张的时候烈酒一起批准的话，那我们也可以设置对烈酒的一定的限制，比如说限制卖烈酒的空间，或者是卖烈酒的选择性，所以这方面我们也可以给予一定的考虑。当然，我也支持，如果委员会想先把这一项目先搁一下，让社区协会和申请人有再次给予多一点的时间，能够沟通和讨论，这样的话双方可以达到一定的，双方能够达到一定的妥协。
Ms. Farley, I want to make sure to be clear. Do you have a question for the applicant?
I apologize. I thought we were in the discussion phase.
No problem. I just did not want to be unclear. So, not a question.
澄清一下，刚刚没有提出任何问题，只是给予建议和讨论。
All right. Alder Carter and then Ms. Westra.
Yes, going over this packet, it looks like this location, this applicant and this location was granted a liquor license a few years ago. Is that correct, Jim? Okay.
That is correct.
这个资料就是地点前几年已经被批准过一份酒牌，对不对？是的。
So my question to Alder Evers, is that it looks like the residents are asking for three different things. They're asking for it to be placed on file without prejudice. They're asking for it to be declined, and they're asking for it to be referred. So can you tell me what has changed since they were granted a liquor license a few years ago, and what has changed from that till today? And then I have another question. It's a three-parter tag.
所以因为我看了一下这申请人的表格，就这前几年这家这个地点已经被批准过一个酒牌，那么所以我对市议员 Evers 要问出的问题是，这看起来好像这社区协会他们有3个不同的要求。第一个要求是把这申请先归档一下，第二个请求是让委员会拒绝申请，第三是让把这个申请先去转放一下。所以我的问题是，从上一次这个地点被批准过酒牌，有哪一些事实是有更变的？
Well, thank you, Alder Carter. I didn't hear what the middle of the three parts of your three-part question, but the first and the third, what referral or placed on file, I think is the same thing as far as they're concerned, that the applicant would come back. I will note that upon receiving the news of the July 27th meeting, which was really clear the neighborhood's take on the sale of hard liquor, the applicant changed their permit application, submitted a revised one, but left in the sale of hard liquor, removed the issue of on-site consumption of, with some counter service, which was not the key issue at all. The key issue really is this neighborhood. There is a liquor store, a full-service liquor store on Regent Street, just a few blocks away. There isn't a perceived need that we need another establishment in the neighborhood selling hard liquor. That this business could very well meet the needs of the neighborhood with selling prepared foods with beer and wine to go. There is a view, and I don't think it's unreasonable, that hard liquor contributes to the potential for greater, more problems. And I think that's based on their experience in the proximity to Camp Randall and the student housing south of Regent Street. So, well, I think there is value in encouraging the applicant to come back to the neighborhood association for another go of it.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 minute? Because that part, I understand what you're saying. The Vilas Neighborhood Association meets on August 24th.
That's correct.
When is the next ALRC meeting, Jim?
That would be September 21st.
So between August 24th and September 1st, you believe that possibly, no guarantees on that there will be a compromise between what the applicant wants to open, which would be minus the hard liquor as far as the residents are concerned, but what the applicant wants to open and what the residents are comfortable with.
Yeah, I don't know if that will happen, but I think that it's worth giving it a shot. And I understand from the clerk's office that the permit was granted 3 years ago. I think it was prior to me becoming older. That has no bearing. It elapsed, and maybe Jim could speak to that the applicant did not follow through with some of the necessary paperwork, and that permit lapsed, and it holds no legal or even moral obligation on the part of the LRC to somehow or another grant it again. I think that you
guys got to give the chance for the interpreter to translate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that wasn't the reason why I asked that question. I asked what changed in the neighborhood.
I can
not that it was bearing.
Yeah, I can speak to that, but I'll pause too.
But that's okay.
I think what's changed is alcohol density in the neighborhood, concerns about that.
就是第一项和第三项应该是都是同一个意思，就是把这个申请先暂时归档，然后让双方能够再进一步商讨，然后双方能够达成一致的协议。因为从7月27号之后，他又重新更改过了他的申请表格，就是把在现场可以堂吃的这一部分服务去掉了，但是这一点不是重点，重点是社区协会对于卖烈酒的这一项是最大的一个问题，因为街坊邻居也亲身体验到了这每年因为烈酒造成的一定的问题，因为特别是这社区里面有很多学生，还有 Camp Randall 也在附近，所以 这也涉及到周围的学生，还有学生的住所，特别是在附近就离了几条街的距离有一个大型的卖酒的超市，所以就对卖酒的场所的数量，这社区的邻居也是对他们也是一个顾虑。然后对于3年之前，这个地点被批准过酒牌，当时我还不是市议员，所以当时发生什么我也不能够对这方面我不能够发言。但是据我了解，好像是因为虽然当时酒牌被批准了之后，但是好像业主没有能够完成一定的流程还是一定的步骤，他没有按照规定来完成，所以这酒牌最终是失效了。所以这一次我们就当做它是一个重新的申请，而不是更新原来的执照。下一次的 Vilas Neighborhood Association 的会议，它是安排在8月24号进行，而下一次的酒牌批准委员会的会议是安排在9月21日，所以问题是否在这段时间有足够时间让双方能够商讨，然后再达成协议。
Pardon me for a moment, Alder Carter. Joe?
Yes.
How difficult is it to re-enable the translation channel since we don't? Okay.
So if the translator could just let the applicant know to click on the little globe symbol and pick the Chinese channel.
It would actually be, sorry, interpreter would like to state that because this has been going on for about, I don't know, like half hour, 40 something. I'm unable to switch over to simultaneous mode right now because generally speaking in simultaneous, we need to have 2 people to switch off, and I'm already past, I'm fine with doing consecutive, but
gotcha.
For simultaneous, I don't have the capacity to do that because I don't have a team interpreter with me to switch off to simultaneous.
Okay, and because you're a human being, that's cool.
We respect it as is.
Okay, Alder Carter, carry on.
My last question is to the applicant. Did I hear you correctly when I believe you stated that if you had to do just, I think you said convenient food only, or convenient food, maybe with wine and beer. I'm not sure if you can repeat that it would not be feasible. And I'm taking a great liberty in trying to quote what you said, so you might want to just repeat it for me.
申请人这问题，我的问题是，我刚刚就是想确认一下我有没有听清楚，好像是说如果这家店仅仅是卖一些熟食或者只是一个便利店的话，就是在啤酒或者是葡萄酒的话，你是觉得这家店是不可能是成功的，是不是？是不能够生存下去的，是不是？
这是问我吗？
啊，
也不是了，就是因为我在20年前我就开过很大的超市，我在中国的时候做超市，我知道烈酒、食物生的、熟的，包括酒类这样的生意点起来会好做一些。
Yeah, so I'm just speaking kind of from experience because I operated a large scale supermarket in China 20 years ago, and I know that with a combination of liquor and food, with a business model like that, that has the highest success rate.
Thank you very much.
非常感谢。
All right. Ms. Westra, then Mr. Fletcher.
I primarily was just going to put a motion on the floor to see if we could direct the conversation a little
Please
bit.
do.
I would like to move that we refer this to the next meeting. At the moment, I don't know what I'm voting for. So I would like to see this fledged out a little bit more. And I want them to meet with the neighborhood association to know what they're also going to be getting in their neighborhood.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Westra to refer to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting, second from Mr. Fletcher.
所以我们现在有一个动议，想提议把这一个项目转移到下一次的9排批准委员会的会议。这样的话可以给双方还有邻居还有这社区的协会一个机会，可以再进一步的讨论和商讨。然后 Fletcher 先生也有同意。
All right, Mr. Baruchak.
Thank you. I'm opposed to this motion. I think the ALRC should take a vote tonight. This question has already gone to the neighborhood association, and we know their position. We know that the neighborhood association does not want hard liquor sold. And we also know that the applicant wants to sell hard liquor.
所以
And I'll pause for translation.
我是反对的，我提出反对的动议，因为我们已经知道社区协会他们想要什么，然后邻居想要什么，我们也知道申请人想要什么。这个社区协会他们是不想要一个可以买卖烈酒的一个场所，而申请人他是想提供卖烈酒的场所，所以我提出反对的动议。
I don't think we need to give the neighborhood association a second go around to try to convince this applicant to do something that the applicant doesn't want to do. We're here to vote on whether to grant the license as is applied here. We've heard the objections from the neighborhood. We heard the objections from the alder. We know that the police want less hard liquor in that area. So we should vote on this today. I will oppose the motion to refer, and then I will make another motion to grant as is. And on both of those, I'd like a roll call.
所以我就再补充一下，我觉得没有必要让社区协会给他们再一次机会，让他们能不能够说动这个申请人，看看能不能让他能够同意不要卖烈酒，因为我们已经听过各方的意见，我们已经听过社区协会给出的意见，我们已经听到了市议员给出的意见，然后我们也听到了警察局他们想要在这个地区能够尽量减少烈酒的存在，所以我是提出反对的动议。然后我还要提出另外一个就是就批准当下的状态。
All right, Mr. Boggs.
While I have no vote, I do want to iterate and reiterate as the ASM representative. If you have not driven through downtown Madison in the last several days, students are coming back to campus, and that is something that should be a heavy consideration for any business opening, especially near the Regent Street. And just want to reiterate that business owner is located in a heavily student traffic neighborhood, and decisions that we make at this board have a significant impact on how that business will function in said neighborhood.
Thank you.
虽然说我没有投票权，但是我作为 ASM 的代表，我是想提醒一下大家，就是这几天我不知道大家有没有在down Madison 这个市中心的周围有没有路过，有没有看到现在有很多学生已经重返校园，然后在 Regent Street 周围要提醒一下所有的企业就在学生逐渐的增加的情况下，就对于卖酒的场所要有一定的注重。
Alder Carter.
Yes, we might have dueling motions tonight for the first time. I will not be supporting this. I think I will not be supporting the motion. I believe that the applicant has been clear on their business plan, and I do think instead of referring it, we need to allow the applicant the whatever adequate time they need to either readjust their business plan to accommodate or even come up with a totally different purpose of this location. I don't feel that within the time frame of a referral that there's going to reach a compromise. So I will not be supporting this motion. Thank you.
所以我不会支持这个动议，因为我觉得这申请人已经表明了他的计划，所以我觉得这申请人应该重新更改一下他的计划，或者是完全提供一个新的一个企业计划。所以我觉得如果把这项目转到下一次的会议再讨论的话，这不一定有给予充分的时间，所以我是不打算支持这一项动议的。
All right. Thank you, Alder Carter. Dr. Reese.
I think Mr. Fletcher was first. Can I default to him first?
You may do so.
Thank you.
Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I will support this motion. I seconded it. I think it's well within sort of what we have done previously as an organization to encourage dialogue where appropriate between an applicant and the neighborhood association, even continued dialogue. I would add that and stress that word. Even, if the situation remains the same next month, where the neighborhood association, after further conversation, still feels like, we really do not want a liquor store, even, let's say, do not want this concept, and particularly do not want hard liquor. I think bearing this conversation out, giving it a month to come up with a set of conditions that works. I don't see necessarily the harm in using the method that we've sort of previously adopted here to work through things. And again, if the ultimate sort of recommendation back from the neighborhood association remains the same, I think it's something for us to consider. The other perspective I guess I'd want to see is, given the prior experiences with this applicant on State Street, which we haven't touched upon in detail here, is sort of, again, as we get to the end of next month, or the next time we meet, what is Captain Freeman's perspective, even with potentially the neighborhood association suggesting more conditions that would make this concept work, or not, right? Or saying, you know what, this concept, we couldn't come to a compromise. I guess I heard slightly differently from maybe some others in terms of from the applicant, in terms of her saying, I think the word quote operable was used in relationship to not selling hard liquor, and that gives me pause in terms of again thinking, well, maybe again there is room for conversation here. So I'm a strong supporter of the motion. I think it sticks to our what we've done previously. Thank you.
我支持这项动议，因为我觉得，如果是能够把这一项推转到下一个月的会议的话，这跟我们有史以来做的是一致的，因为我们一直以来都是会鼓励双方能够有更多的沟通，有更多的交谈，所以我觉得如果等到下一个月再来讨论这一项目的话，是完全合理的。因为如果给了他们这一个月的时间，让申请人和社区协会能够再进一步讨论，然后他们可以双方达成一定的协议，无论是在申请的表格上面能够提出一些的限制，或者做一些对他们的企业计划做出某一定的更改，到时候如果双方能够达成协议的话，那是最好的。我们至少可以给他们这一个月的时间和机会，如果到下个月他们还是不能够双方能够达成协议的话，到时候我们可以再进一步讨论，特别是因为这个社区协会他们也建议把这一项目推到下一个月再进行进一步的讨论，特别是这申请人他在 State Street 上面还有另外一个企业计划到时候到下个月的时候我们还可以再讨论那一项。因为我觉得我好像听到申请人有说过，如果没有卖烈酒的执照的话，他这个企业还是勉强能够经营下去的。我好像有听到他说过这一句话，所以我对这一项是打算是很坚定的支持这个动议。
All right, Dr. Reese, then Ms. Farley.
Thank you. So the neighborhood association is only one component of our decision to make to grant licenses. And so I'm taking that into consideration. The reason that I'm in support of this motion is because I would like to see more details coming back to us about what the business plan is, because the application I think was a little light that we received. And that will also give us a chance to get student input and hear from the downtown captain if necessary. Thank you.
我对这一项提出支持，也想说一下，这社区协会和邻居他们的意见只是给予我们一部分做决定的考虑，不代表全部的。我的支持，因为另外一点，我是想给申请人一个机会，在企业计划里面再给一些细节，因为现在的企业计划里面比较单调，里面信息很少，所以我想给予他们这一个月的时间来纠正一下，到时候我们在下一次会议上也可以听一下学生的意见，或如果有必要的话，我们也可以让警察队长给予他的意见。
All right, Ms. Farley, then Mr. Boggs.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with committee members, Reese and committee member Fletcher. I think that giving the opportunity to have further conversation, at the end of the day, it has less to do with whether a location sells liquor or not, and a lot more to do with how their business model is going to impact the community. And so I think having more time to discuss the business model of, is this a situation where college students are going to have a place to buy cheap liquor versus a store that is going to offer something that's novelty or special or otherwise enhance the community. I think that's an important distinction, and having that extra time allows the community members as well as the applicant to explore those options.
所以我也同意Reese 女士跟 Fletcher 先生的说法，我也支持这一项动议，因为我觉得最终来说，这不一定是完全是这个地点它到底卖不卖酒，而是这个企业对周围的街坊邻居和社区的最终影响是多少。当然我们到时候可以就考虑申请人也可以考虑一下，他这个企业是为了给大学学生提供一个方便买到就便宜烈酒的地方，还是他们想把这个企业做成一个独特的，就是专卖的有独特风格的专卖店。所以我觉得给予申请人这一个机会可以做进一步的考虑，跟社区在跟社区有进一步的交谈，会这样的话可以给我们提供更多的了解。
Mr. Boggs.
I guess just a point of clarification, if we're referring this back to the Vilas Community Associate or Neighborhood Association, does that mean that this institution does not have a current valid liquor license for any liquor or just hard alcoholism?
Currently, there is no liquor license at all at this location.
So to reiterate there, it sounds like the contention here with the Vilas Community Neighborhood Association is the hard liquor, and it sounds as if the business owner is amenable, or at least amenable to further discussion, but there doesn't seem to be contention from the Vilas Neighborhood Association regarding beer and wine sales. And I'm no grocery store expert, but the amount of, or the ability to sell just wine and beer would likely contribute to a fair amount of sales. And I think it does a disservice to the business owner if we're to deny that for an entire month while they deliberate with the neighborhood association, if they have the capacity to still operate their business.
所以我有一个问题想澄清一下，那就是这个地点现在只是是一点酒精牌照都没有，还是只是可以买卖啤酒和葡萄酒，但不能够买卖烈酒？这答案是现在是任何酒精牌照都没有。那么这顾虑就是，如果把这一项目推到下一个月的酒牌批准委员会的会议的话，那么就是说这个企业是要再有1个月的时间没有任何买卖任何酒精的执照，那么对他们的企业是不是会造成一定的影响？
I'd like to clarify one thing. The motion before us is to refer this application to the next ALRC meeting next month. The committee members in support of that motion have recommended that the applicant work with the neighborhood association to try to find more common ground. However, the neighborhood association isn't a city committee the way ALRC is, and anything that they have to say is, we consider it heavily, but it is purely advisory.
我就是想澄清一下，现在在讨论的动议是否把这一项目推转到下个月的9牌批准委员会的会议。这个是社区委员会的他们的建议。当然，这社区委员会不是像我们这委员会的同样的性质，他们给出的建议纯粹只是建议，而没有任何法律上面的效果。
All right, Mr. Burshak.
I'll be brief. Mr. Boggs said that the applicant seems open to talking about some agreement with the neighborhood with respect to beer, wine, and liquor. That is not true based on what we've heard tonight. The applicant is not open to negotiating on liquor. That's not what the applicant said. That's not what anyone said. Alder Evers said that 12 members of the neighborhood association don't want liquor. 12 members of the Vilas Neighborhood Association don't want liquor. So that's what we're going on. Let's vote. I'm ready to vote.
所以我就简单说一下，我就是觉得我们都听到了，这个申请人他是想一定要卖烈酒，而这个 Vilas Neighborhood Association 他们也表达了，他们这社区里面他们不想有卖烈酒的场所。Evers 市议员 Evers 他也提到了，就这12个Vilas Neighborhood 的12个成员，他们都说过不想要任何能够卖烈酒的场所，所以我觉得我提议大家现在可以投票。
All right, we will hear from Ms. Farley and then Ms. Westra. And I would strongly request that after that, we do vote on this matter. Ms. Farley.
Yeah, I have a point of information, and I think Jim might be able to answer this. If the application is not referred and a Class A beer is voted on and approved, they would have to go through the entire process again, and there would be additional fees involved to make that a Class A beer and liquor, right?
A applicant can voluntarily drop down the.
Sure. The question is, if she were to voluntarily drop down, but wanted to apply to broaden it to add liquor, would there be a new application with a new application fee?
Yes, in the future there would be a $100 publication fee, so we can properly notice this in the paper as per the state statute's requirement, as well as send postcards to the neighborhood.
Ms. Farley, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Of course. Ms. Westra.
刚刚问题是，如果这项目如果是推转到下个月的会议的话，那么如果下一次是批准了啤酒跟葡萄酒的，就是 C 级的酒牌，就不包括 A 级烈酒的酒牌的话，那是不是如果以后要想再重新申请 A 级的酒牌的话，那是不是要重新开始一个新的申请过程？那答案是的。就如果申请的过程当中是就所有等级都包括的话，就申请人有权利选择把 A 级自动去掉。但是如果一旦只是批准低级的酒牌的话，如果以后想再回转再申请 A 级的话，那要重新开始整个过程。
Ms. Westra.
one quick, I apologize for anything advanced in the background. I got a dog doing zoomies right now. I just want to call the question so that we can move on to, if this motion fails, to what we're going to do after that.
All right. Well, I think that is timely. Is there any further discussion of the motion before us, which is a motion to refer this item to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the ALRC?
问题是，如果今天这个动议被拒绝的话，接下来会发生什么？接下来就是有没有再进一步想讨论这一项项目？如果没有进一步讨论的话，我们现在可以对提出的动议进行投票。
Is there any further discussion?
有没有进一步想讨论的？
Hearing none, Mr. Verbeek, will you please call the roll on the vote to refer to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting?
没有进一步讨论，那么 Verbeek 先生，那能不能点名现在投票同不同意通过把这一项目推后到下个月的9排批准委员会的会议？
Alder Revere?
Aye.
Alder Revere, aye. Bowership?
No.
Bowership, no. Reese?
Aye.
Reese, aye. Farley?
Aye.
Farley, aye. Westra?
Aye.
Westra, aye. Alder Carter?
No.
Alder Carter, no. Fletcher?
Aye.
Fletcher, aye. Chair, the vote is 5 ayes, 2 noes.
最终投票结果是5个支持，2个拒绝。
All right, thank you, Mr. Verbeek. Committee members, if there are specific pieces of information that you would like the applicant to have available next month, please email the clerk, and that way we can consolidate all of the information and give it in a written form to the applicant.
那么委员会的成员如果在下一个月的会议之前，如果有任何信息你想申请人能够传过来的，请提前给办事员发电子邮件要求这些信息，这样的话申请人可以在下一个月会议之前把这些信息都准备好发过来，到时候会议时我们也可以有更清楚的顺序。
Jiwang, have a good night.
那希望你有个好的晚上。
Okay.
Thank you, Holly.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody, deep breath and a stretch. Next up is item 13, a change of licensed premises for 107 State Street. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Committee, what is your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
I would move referral to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Ms. Farley?
Based off of the application and hopefully Jim can confirm, it looks like this is just for the extended street use permit, which I believe in previous meetings we have approved.
I'm not sure if this was something that had been previously approved, because I know they're extending sort of outside the adjacent restaurant, or the adjacent address. I'd have to check our license system to see if they've asked for something like this in the past.
Is the change not just for the extended use street permit? Maybe I'm reading the application incorrectly.
They're asking for an extension outside of the sidewalk cafe, but it's an extension of. So they already have an extension in front of their business, and this is asking for an extension that goes out a little further in front of the adjacent address.
Understood. Thank you.
This is the first time they've asked for a change of premise, so they do not have a previously approved one.
Ms. Farley, has that answered your question?
It has. Thank you. And I'll second Fletcher's motion.
Beat me to it. Okay, so we have a motion to refer from Mr. Fletcher, second by Ms. Farley. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 13 is referred to next month. Next up, item 14, 21 plus entertainment license for La Taqueria Bar and Grill at 3010 Crossroads.
We do have a restaurant. Jacob Adele is here.
Say again?
We do have a registrant for this item.
Registrant. I think it said restaurant, and I'm like, yeah, it's a restaurant. But
Jekyll, star 6 to unmute. There you go.
Excellent. Jekyll, can you please introduce yourself and let us know what you're proposing?
Sure. My name is Jacob Adele, and we are recently opened this location on the far east side of Madison. And what I'm trying to apply it is to being able to offer, live music and, different experience, for the guests. Food is my, my forte. That's what we do. We've been doing on the, location in 3502 East Washington, and now on this one. But this location has, more capacity, and we would like to be able just to present, local artists. There's a bunch of it, like, Latin jazz, like Tony Castañeda, Angela Puerta, Grupo Revolu, and I'm applying for the license to be able to do it legally.
Excellent. Thank you. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Ms. Farley.
On notice on your application, you state that you will give wristbands to patrons who are 21 years or older. Do you intend to allow patrons under 21 during the performances?
Patrons under 21? Can you repeat the question?
Correct.
Sorry.
Yeah. Do you intend to? So you'll be wristbanding patients who are 21 years or older to identify them, and you'll be checking IDs at the door. Do you intend on allowing in patrons who are under 21?
Yes. I mean, if we have, let's say we have a artist that we're gonna, get a cover on the door, I will be doing that. Yes.
Ms. Farley, do you have further questions?
I do not.
Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Dr. Reese.
Thank you. Have you allowed music before in your restaurant, or have you worked anywhere else where live music has been a part of the plan?
Yes, I haven't in my restaurant because the 3502 location is pretty limited. We have about 30 to 35 seats. My career, and that's why I'm actually taking over the Uno's location. I used to be the general manager on Uno's on Middle Point Road. for several years, and we used to play music on the big, beautiful patio. The old barn location used to have. Means that I used to run that, and I'm familiar with it.
Okay, and this music would only be inside, is that right?
Well, I was planning on doing, during the summer, if we can do a couple of people or something in the patio. If that's available, I would like to offer that too.
I'm not familiar with, or I can't think of the address at this moment. Is there any residential? There's nothing over there, right?
Well, it's mainly commercial.
Right.
That is on the far east side, close to the Home Depot, on the hill, on the high crossing.
Okay.
Yeah. It means I took over the building where Uno Chicago Grill used to be.
Okay, thank you. And I was just asking because with patio music, that's one of the things we hear about is neighbors complaining, but there aren't really any neighbors over there. So
yeah, there is not much around, and there is actually another business down the road. I don't know if I can say the name, but they're closer to the residential, and every Friday, Saturday, I think they do live music on the patio.
Okay, and I see your security plan. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. Committee, what further questions do you have for the application? All right. Dr. Reese.
Unless Ms. Westra has a question, I was going to, I move to grant.
I hear motion to grant from Dr. Reese, second from Ms. Westra. Are there any other registrants for this item?
There are not.
All right. Well, then let's move right along. Any discussion of the motion to grant? Seeing none. Is there any dissent? Seeing none, motion carries. 21 Plus Entertainment license is granted to La Taqueria. Congratulations, JCal. Next up is item 15, 21 Plus Entertainment license for Harmony Bar and Grill, which I thought already had one. But do we have a registrant here for this item? Mr. Fletcher?
Just checking, Mr. Chair. Are we also taking item 23 up at the same time?
23. We should certainly do so. 23 is a new license application for Harmony Bar and Grill. Now it makes more sense. Jim, do we have a registrant here for this item?
Yes, Pam Barrett is here.
Excellent. Pam, can you please introduce yourself and tell us what's going on?
Yes. Hello, my name is Pam Barrett. And my husband and I are in the process of purchasing the Harmony Bar at 2201 Atwood Avenue. It is has been the Harmony Bar since 1990, and we are hoping to keep it in the same spirit that it has operated in that whole time, and that's why the application includes both the liquor Class B and also the entertainment license, because we've held music there for, I say we, I live in the neighborhood, so I feel like it's a neighborhood asset. But they've held music there for the past 30 years. Started off with blues music, and it's branched out a little bit more to Americana and folk and some jam band type music. But we're hoping to keep it in the same vein that it's been running in for the last 30 years.
Excellent. Thank you, Pam. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Fletcher, then Dr. Reese.
Good evening, Pam. You mentioned keeping it in the same vein and the spirit. Can you just confirm that there really are no operational changes that you envisage for the bar itself?
I really don't. What we have is a pretty good mix between alcohol and food. It's almost 50-50. And in some years past, it was actually a little over 50% food. And so one of the things that we're looking at doing is the Harmony Bar actually had a pretty nice menu 10 years back or so that had been developed over a couple of decades. And it's sort of eroded a little bit in terms of what the offerings are. And we're hoping to bring some of the offerings for food back. Pretty much we've talked to the staff. We haven't heard from anyone that they want to leave. So what's nice is we're going to have a stable bar and cook staff that's been there for a while. So I'm hoping that from the customer's perspective, what they see is maybe a plus up in the food. But otherwise, everything should be fairly seamless.
And Pam, you can you describe sort of what I know Alder Foster sent a note along, and you've been sort of before the neighborhood association as well. But what was sort of what encouraged you to sort of make this acquisition, as it were? And what's your relationship with the prior sort of management ownership?
Oh, sure. We have a really good relationship with the current and outgoing management. I'm actually sitting in my sunroom and looking out of my sunroom. About 70 strides away is the Harmony Bar. So I am very much a neighbor to the Harmony Bar as well. And so what I didn't want to see happen, and what my husband also didn't want to see happen, is to have the Harmony Bar disappear and get scraped, and then have a nondescript apartment building put up there. We have gotten nothing but positive comments from people who, this bar is a real community treasure. It's an adult community house for a lot of people in the neighborhood. We had very positive reaction in July. We presented to the neighborhood association, and we got a ringing endorsement from them. They said they were going to write a letter to the ALRC. I'm not sure if they did. In August 2nd, we did have a meeting on site for the neighborhood, for people from the neighborhood to come in. And that was attended by about a dozen people, including some of the closest neighbors to the Harmony. And two of those neighbors did write a letter to the ALRC in support as well. We also have a county supervisor who's written in support, and the founder of the Harmony, Keith Daniels, also wrote a letter of support for us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Reese.
Thanks. My only concern is that, on the entertainment license application, that there is no security plan and that the Harmony has never had security plan. I'm not going to pass on your application because of that, because I know the Harmony's been running for a very long time and working well, but I do want to strongly recommend that you reconsider that. The Harmony's not small, and there are some spots that don't have direct eye line. So at a minimum, making sure that there's staff who are responsible for keeping an eye on the crowd, particularly parts that aren't, right by the bar or right by the stage. I know it's not that big, but you never know what can happen. And if, while you don't need an extensive security team, you do want to make sure that you do have a safety system in place, because if something does happen, that's always, that's when the problems occur if you don't have a plan in place. So I want to strongly encourage you to modify that. And even if it's just these designated staff on this night are responsible for the safety of the patrons, that would at least be something. That's all I have. Thanks.
Sure. Point taken. Our bartenders do end up going to that back room quite frequently to bus, glasses and that sort of thing. And they also do check to make sure that the windows are closed during shows so that the sound doesn't become an issue. But point taken. Yes. Thank you.
All right, committee, what additional questions do you have for the applicant? All right, thank you, Pam. Jim, do we have any other registrants for this item?
We do not.
Committee, what's your pleasure? If someone is going to make a motion, please make it clear whether it is for only item 23, only item 15, or both. Dr. Reese.
I'll move to grant both items 15 and 23.
Second from Ms. Westra. Is there any discussion? Ms. Farley.
To that point on security, I would move to grant with the condition that security section is updated to reflect a less nonchalant approach to security.
Dr. Reese and Ms. Westra, do you feel comfortable with that being man, I can't talk. Do you feel comfortable with requiring that the applicant provide an up-to-date security plan to the clerk's office prior to the license being issued?
Yes, I would amend my motion as such.
Ms. Westra? Okay, Ms. Westra nodded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Items 15 and 23 are approved pending an up-to-date security plan. Have a good night, Pam.
Can I just get a point of clarification? So that's approval contingent upon receipt of a security plan? Okay, not a condition to submit.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that was item 15. Next up is item 16, 21 plus entertainment license for the Cardinal Bar, and also item 27, new license for the Cardinal Bar. Do we have a registrant here for these items?
We have 4 registrants for this item.
Is one of them the applicant?
I think multiple of them are the applicant. There's Andy Hansen in support, not wishing to speak, will be able to answer questions. Anthony Rainier in support, not wishing to speak, will be able to answer questions. Dustin Lenz in support, not wishing to speak, and Carrie Tobias in support, not wishing to speak.
Well, Andy, it appears that you are the agent, so you are the lucky winner of getting to speak. Can you please introduce yourself and let us know what you're proposing?
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Andy Hansen here. We're calling here with my partners here, and we're actually looking to reopen the Cardinal Bar. Kind of same true to what it used to be years ago when Ricardo was still the owner there. So my partners and I are all here, and actually, if it's okay with you guys, Allison is a little bit better versed in the elevator speech and these kind of things. Would you guys be okay if she kind of handled this?
Probably. Is she an officer of the corporation?
She is, yep.
Then by all means.
Excellent. I'm going to mute myself then and let her go.
Well, Allison, please introduce yourself and let us know what you're proposing.
Hi, everybody. I am Allison Lenz. I'm one of the partners of the new Cardinal Bar. We have come together, 5 of us. 5 partners are all here today. We want to basically revitalize the Cardinal Bar. It's been a Madison institution for over 100 years. I think everyone's kind of familiar with the Cardinal Bar, but the building was originally the Cardinal Hotel. It is older than Wisconsin's Capitol. The bar that still stands inside, along with other architectural elements, was built in 1908. And really a lot of this history is what we're trying to preserve, especially in such a beautiful neighborhood as the First Settlement District. Much of Madison's history is intertwined in that First Settlement District, and we really want to nourish that with a future all of our own. We've all have a history with the Cardinal Bar and with the previous owner, Ricardo Gonzalez. And we sort of had this we putting this idea together over a year ago, and immediately approached him right away in search of his blessing, but also in search of his advisement. And he's sort of been there while we've put this together throughout the entire time. We are very humbled. We're very honored that the next era of this place for people to congregate, has been bestowed upon us. We invite all walks of life, and we intend to provide a safe space for culture, conversation, and primarily community. The Cardinal Bar had been a place where community had met and gathered and was able to talk about a lot of things, and it was really healthy, I think, to have that in the First Settlement District, and that's really a big goal of ours as well. In terms of entertainment, again, just as Andy said, we're really kind of looking to do the same thing that the Cardinal did, a little more focused on the jazz side of things. There's definitely been this vacuum, as you can say, where jazz was, where creatives that frequented the Cardinal Bar have been a little bit displaced. Latin music being a part of that as well, but really kind of focusing on those two things, culture, jazz, and a place for the community to gather. It is also well suited for private events. So we do intend to hold special events there. It offers a unique view of Lake Monona. But also with a few of the things that are going on in that neighborhood right now, the lakefront porch, et cetera, we look forward to being a partner as far as all of those initiatives go as well. As far as beer and liquor, the whole gambit, I think we did 90% alcohol, 10% food. So we do intend to offer just a few small things here and there, maybe like a cheese board, some Cuban inspired, just kind of hand foods. We really do want to focus on the happy hour crowd as well. We're not looking to go super late night. I think the neighborhood really lends itself to that time of day. And I think it's really important for us to provide some kind of sustenance during that hour, when people are getting off work and sort of at the very beginning of the end of their day. And so, again, just kind of small Cuban inspired cuisine as far as food goes. And that, that kind of really sums it up for us. We were able to meet with the neighborhood association on Monday. And we really received a resounding excitement for this place to be open again. And, it's really a place that's bigger than us. We kind of look at it as more than just an establishment. We're looking to make it what it once was, in a place for the community to gather. And we were really excited to get that feedback from the neighbors. We do have a security plan in place that we discussed at length with them. And yeah, I think, going forward, we have a lot of expertise as far as our team goes. We've all managed a bar at one point in time in our lives, bartended, we were all certified. And with that resounding, excitement at the neighborhood meeting, it just really kind of reinvigorated us that we are on the right track. And I think this is the right thing to do in this neighborhood. The GMs, from Essen House were also there. And they were also in support of what we're doing. And so just generally excited to bring this place back to life.
Excellent. Thank you, Allison. Alder Carter.
For the Cardinal?
We couldn't hear you at first, Alder Carter. We heard when you just said for the Cardinal.
Oh, sorry about that. I might be missing a page, but what are your hours at the Cardinal?
Sure. Am I just continuously unmuted?
Excuse me?
Oh, can you hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you. Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. So it'll be just almost exactly like the Cardinal Bar was. We'll be closed on Mondays. We'll be open 4 to midnight, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday and Saturday. Friday we'll be open 4 until 1. On Saturday we'll be open 11 to 1. And on Sundays, 11 to midnight.
And can you give me the Friday time? I don't have that.
4 p.m. to 1 in the morning, bar close.
Oh, the same as Saturday, right?
Yes, ma'am. Nope, Saturday will be opening at 11 a.m.
Oh, okay. Okay. My next question for you is, can you give me an example of the food you would be serving? I don't need the recipe, although I might want to hit you up later. But what kind of food are you going to be serving? Seemed pretty vague, and I didn't get a chance to write it down.
Sure, not at all. And we're actually in the middle of finalizing that menu right now. It's going to be about 3 to 5 items. One will be a cheese board. Another will be some kind of, pretzels, nuts, chips, just some kind of to snack on. Empanadas. And probably a smaller Cuban sandwich.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicants? Dr. Reese.
Thank you. I'm sure you all discussed this with the neighborhood, but just curious, just given all the news lately about, well, it's outdoor music, which doesn't apply to you, but just what's going on in the neighborhood now. Have you, do you have a plan for people who are outside smoking or who might be like hanging out outside by cars that might be talking or potential neighborhood disturbance?
Yes, we do. So we have planned to have a security Friday and Saturday nights. We will not be pumping music outside. Any kind of outdoor area will be closed pretty early. I think we're looking at 9 o'clock. And so we will also have a security camera outside as well, so that we can, kind of monitor that. And we also have some bar, oh my gosh, it's escaping me. Procedures that will frequently go outside and check on what's going on outside, as well as at the end of the night as well. That was one of the neighborhood's concerns. Absolutely, Karen. And so we've put a few things into place as far as that procedure goes to sort of mitigate that.
Cool, thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you.
All right, committee, what additional questions do you have for the applicant? All right, thank you, Allison. Jim, do we have any additional registrants not directly associated with the business?
No one beyond the 4 that I mentioned.
Okay, Dr. Reese.
Quick question, are there conditions or were there conditions on the Cardinals license previously that we should consider?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. Jim? No.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. All right, let's. This is the one that ended in 2017.
Or I guess just anything relevant to the neighborhood is what I was
No,
looking for.
there were no conditions on that license.
Okay, great. In that case, I move to grant items 16 and 27. Did I get those numbers right?
I believe you did, Cardinal. Yes. All right. So we've got a motion to grant from Dr. Reese. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Westra. And is there any discussion? Hearing none, is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Items 16 and 27 are granted. Congratulations, Andy and Allison. All right, next up, item 17, 21 plus entertainment license for Bandit Tacos and Coffee. And I bet we're going to see another. Is there another one associated with this, Jim?
No, I don't believe.
Okay. So 21 plus entertainment license for Bandit Tacos and Coffee at 640 West Wash. And do we have a registrant here for this item?
We do.
Yeah.
Gilbert Ultra.
Excellent. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us what you're proposing?
Is that me? You guys hear me?
Yep, we do.
Great. I'd like to just say what a awesome meeting so far. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Everyone's always welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And one note, I'm not sure why it got marked as 21 plus. We are a restaurant that's just adding music, so it's definitely not 21 and over we're just going to have the idea is just adding some acoustic or lightly amplified music to our regular operations. So is that standard that says 21 plus, or is there a separate 18 and over, no age limit, one that should be selected?
Let's see. Assistant City Attorney Brist.
This would be institute is for performing it's called this allows you to have people who are 18 on present, but you have wear a armband somehow be raised so they don't get served.
Yeah, what I'm wondering about is I know that it is we have had plenty of cases where there is a bona fide restaurant which operates as a bona fide restaurant all of the time. They're not having concerts. Nobody's coming there just for the music. They're going there to eat, and there's some music happening while they're there. So in those cases, what is the most appropriate license? Jim, do you have a thought?
Yeah, typically the folks who apply for the 18 plus are taverns who aren't regularly allowed to have folks who are 18, 19, or 20 in there without supervision. And so the 18 plus allows them this capacity. Whereas your typical restaurant that usually has patrons of all ages unaccompanied, that usually just applies to the 21 plus license.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification.
All right. Committee, what questions do you have for Gil? Dr. Reese.
What's the capacity of your restaurant?
I believe it's currently listed at right around 95. I'm sorry, I don't have that information in front of me. We do have a summertime patio.
Okay.
But yeah.
And what hours are you open?
We're currently open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and we extend that to 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. We have no interest in expanding those hours. Things really get quiet down there after 8 or 9 p.m. We're really just looking to give people a reason to hang around for the dinner hour with a little kind of background music. So
Sure.
not looking to do any late night shows or extend our hours or anything like that.
Sure. And because you do majority food and because of the context, I'll just mention, you wrote down nothing about security, which is probably appropriate for your context. But if, I'd say keep a close eye on that. And if it does get, you start having, more lively music or, oftentimes when people get these licenses, you do see that it is a draw to the area. So if it does go like that, I would strongly encourage making sure that you outline a good security plan, particularly just a little closer to closing. So that's all I have. No question there, just making a comment, but thanks. That's all I have.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank
Reese.
you for that.
Ms. Westra?
The only thing I would like a little more clarification about is on the application for the underage drinking and fake ID plan. We'll use our pre-existing policies and practices. What are your pre-existing policies and practices? If you could verbalize those for us for awareness.
Yeah, I mean, we card anyone that looks under 40. We always have a licensed, bartender, manager on site at all times, and just general standard practices for making sure we don't serve minors. I mean, it's really this is a counter service restaurant, and it's not really a drinking hole. So our internal practices are make sure you card anyone that appears to be under 40 years of age, and we do make sure that all of our managers have their bartending licenses, and that's one of those people's on site at all times.
All right, Assistant City Attorney Brist.
I'm sorry. First of all, I had a bad connection tonight for the internet, and when I was speaking the last time, it went off. But I wanted to point out that Section 38.0611 sub F requires that a licensed establishment that meets the exceptions in Chapter 125 for allowing underage persons on premise that meets the exceptions for allowing underage persons on the licensed premise must have a means of visually and conspicuously identifying those who are under 21 years of age or over, and that the burden is on the establishment to make sure that they are not serving people who are under 21, obviously. It's the sole responsibility of the license holder to determine whether the exceptions apply to their establishment.
All right. Thank you, Assistant City Attorney Brist. Committee, what additional questions do you have for the applicant? Ms. Westra?
No questions. I'd just like to move approval.
Hear a motion to approve from Ms. Westra. Alder Verveer.
Thank you, Chairperson Donnelly. I'll second the motion to get us going. I just wanted to mention to my colleagues that the applicant did attend the regular monthly neighborhood meeting for the Mifflin neighborhood where Bandit Taco's located, and there was unanimous support for this application.
Thank you, Alder Verveer. Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for this item?
There is. Tim Camps is registered in support, not wishing to speak but available to answer questions. And he's from the Mifflin District, Capitol Hills neighborhood.
Excellent. Committee, any discussion or questions for that individual? All right, we've got a motion to grant from Ms. Westra, seconded by Alder Verveer. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. 21 plus entertainment license is granted for Bandit Tacos and Coffee. Have a good night, Gil. Next up, 21 plus entertainment license for Eno Vino downtown Madison at 1 North Webster Street. Do we have anyone registered for this item?
Yes, Matthew McMahon is registered in support, now wishing to speak, but I do not see him in the list of attendees.
Okay. Committee, what is your pleasure? Ms. Westra?
I'd like to refer this to the next meeting.
Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Fletcher. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 18 is referred to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting. Alder Verveer.
Thank you. Before we move on to other agenda items, I move that we reconsider our action this evening regarding agenda item 13, as the applicant has now been able to join us.
All right, we've got a motion to reconsider on item 13, where I assume we move to refer on that one. Okay. Do I hear a second on Alder Verveer's motion? Second from Mr. Fletcher. All right. All in favor of reopening discussion for item 13? I'm sorry. Is there any dissent to reopening discussion for item 13? Hearing none, motion carries. So item 13 is before us once again. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
We do. Nathan Mergen is here.
Excellent. Nathan, can you please introduce yourself and let us know what you are proposing?
My name is Nathan Mergen, and I'm the owner of 107 State, also doing business as 107 State. This is regarding the outdoor sidewalk cafe and the street eatery program. It's the public notice of the application for the expansion.
Are you asking us or telling us?
No. I'm not telling you anything. I'm asking for the expansion. This was something.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. No. I'm not. I would never presume to tell you guys anything.
Miscommunication. Mr. Bruchak.
Hello, Nathan. So you want to move your outdoor seating in front of the neighbor?
Yeah, John Caputo is the building owner of my restaurant and 109 State Street, and we would just like to expand in front of 109.
Okay, and this is my area of town, so I know it well. But just to be 100% sure, can you remind me the name of the business next to you?
The business next to me it used to be Shoe. It's been empty for a number of years now.
Okay. So I take it you're not bothering anybody by going in front of a...
Not at all. And John and I have a good relationship. He's totally on board with it.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bruchak. Nathan, do you have is the space in question public sidewalk or privately owned?
It's public sidewalk on State Street, yes.
Okay, thank you. Alder Carter?
Sure.
Yeah, my question, Nathan, is if that commercial space gets leased out, what's your next step?
That would be entirely up to the both the building owner and the person that leases it. If the people that lease the space at 109 decide that they don't want me in front of their building, then I'll remove the space and go back to a smaller patio.
Okay, so you would enter into some kind of agreement if it was ever leased out.
Sure.
Okay.
This is true.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Farley.
Yeah, I'd like to consult our legal counsel. Do we need any kind of confirmation that the applicant has permission to use the space that is public space, but not in front of their building?
We need confirmation that the applicant has control over that space from whoever the responsible landlord is. So it would be appropriate to have something from the landlord.
For anyone who's unfamiliar with this, the normal situation is that somebody wants to expand into, some sort of shared space that is privately owned. And in such a case, we will require that they have a lease saying that they have sole control of that space. It's more interesting in this case because it's not privately held space. It's a public sidewalk. So, Assistant City Attorney Brist, if we had a letter from the landlord saying that there is no other claim on the use of that public sidewalk, would that be adequate?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Nathan, do you believe you would have any trouble getting that from the landlord?
No, not at all. I could provide that by end of day tomorrow, I would imagine, as long as John is available.
Excellent. Ms. Farley, did you have additional questions?
No, and if there aren't other questions, I would move to grant with that.
Let's hear Alder Verveer has his hand up, so I'd like to hear from him first. Alder Verveer.
Thank you. A question of the applicant. Nathan, did you already ask John Caputo for such a letter to file with the street vending coordinator for the expanded sidewalk cafe for this season?
Yes, I think I have actually a letter on file somewhere. It would probably be within my email records. And I think I've sent one to the Sidewalk Cafe, the street vending email address as well.
Thank you. So for my colleagues' benefit, the program formerly known as Streetery, we don't technically call it that anymore, is a two-step licensing process if alcoholic beverages are involved. We're obviously one part of the process, but the other part is that you have to be administratively approved by a variety of city staff, coordinated by the City Economic Development Division Street Vending Coordinator. And as such, you are not allowed to expand beyond your property line on the public sidewalk or the public roadway unless you have written correspondence on file with that office from the property owner or the appropriate property management company. So I think it would be duplicative, although it's a great idea, we already are doing it, and it would be duplicative and I think extra work for the city clerk's office to also have such correspondence on file. In essence, this applicant and all the others that, as Ms. Farley correctly identified earlier tonight when this item first came up, have previously been on consent agendas over the last many months at these meetings, cannot go beyond their property line in the public right of way without such written permission on file with city staff. So I don't think we need to worry about that here at our venue. And I'll second, if Ms. Farley did make the motion to grant, I believe I would be happy to second that motion.
Excellent. So we have a motion to grant item 13, change of licensed premises for 107 State from Ms. Farley, second from Alder Verveer. Are there any other registrants for this item?
There are not.
Is there any discussion? Dr. Reese.
Just in the spirit of making sure files match, just in case something comes up down the road, I wonder if we could just ask for whatever, I don't know, approval. Like if we're not getting the landlord approval, if we just get the letter from Streetery, or I just think it's important for us to have something on file, just because this is an odd situation in case any dispute comes up later.
That makes sense. Ms. Farley and Alder Verveer, do you have any concerns with making the approval contingent upon someone from the clerk's office locating a letter such as we've been discussing? Obviously, if it could not be found, the applicant could provide it. Alder Verveer. Ms. Farley.
Go ahead, Ms. Farley can go first.
Sorry, I just have a point of information. Since these breedery programs require 2 separate licenses, are those licenses in any way linked to each other? As Alder Verveer said, I think that if we have that documentation on the other license, then it would be double documentation for the clerk's office. But I also agree that should be easily accessible. So if they are linked, then I don't think that provision is necessary. But if they are not easily or readily linked, then I think that makes sense.
Jim, I think
they're
I know
linked
the
in
answer,
the way that a sidewalk cafe grants all operations outside. However, the alcohol premises is very clearly defined, so you have to extend the alcohol premise to extend that to whatever area in the sidewalk cafe is being expanded. So the sidewalk cafe is all operations aside from alcohol, but allows the alcohol if the ALRC and Common Council approves of premises that moves into that area.
At a very technical level, within the computer system or systems that track these licenses, does a link exist between those 2 records?
No.
Ms. Farley, has that answered your question?
It does. Thank you.
Of course.
And in that case, I would accept the condition, or condition isn't the right word. But the
prerequisite
that information be included, just so we can make sure it's readily accessible.
Of course. Alder Verveer, comfortable?
Thank you. I am. Again, it just seems to me that we're kind of doing this only to this one applicant when there are literally dozens and dozens of applicants, many of which are in the Aldermanic District I've been elected to represent, that are in exact similar situations, and they breeze through on consent agenda after consent agenda throughout the pandemic. And we haven't asked the deputy city clerk and his overworked colleagues in the clerk's office to try to track that down. I just want to stress that Megan Blakehorse, the city street vending coordinator, and her colleagues, she doesn't have many, but she has one person that works with her on this in-house, are already doing this. So I just don't want to reinvent the wheel and do the work. So whatever the deputy city clerk is comfortable communicating with Ms. Blakehorst is certainly fine with me. Number one, don't be a condition, and it sounds like nobody's suggesting it be a condition. And I totally hear what Ms. Farley and Dr. Reese are saying. It just is concerning to me a little that we're doing it for this applicant, but not all the other streetery applicants that we've seen, again, since the pandemic began, that are in exact similar situations where they've had the luxury of going next door to their agreeable neighbors with their cafes. So I think I've made my point. So again, my thought theory is whatever the deputy city clerk and the clerk's office is comfortable with it, and I certainly don't want this to be a condition, though.
Yeah, I would just add that if the ALRC extended premises onto a sidewalk and the sidewalk cafe is not approved, then that's kind of a moot point because the operation has to be able to extend it by the sidewalk cafe people, regardless of what the ALRC does. So I think the ultimate people who need that documentation are the sidewalk cafe people, because if they don't get that approval, then the alcohol license extension is kind of moot.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say, is that we already have this covered by a different city agency, and this would be moot if in this case 107 State did not have in hand their printed sidewalk cafe license for this licensing year that allowed them to go in front of both 107 and 109 State streets.
So what I'm hearing is that Alder Verveer is not comfortable with this. So it is not part of the motion. Dr. Reese would, of course, be welcome to move to amend the original motion. Absent such a motion, we will move forward with it as originally moved by Ms. Farley. Ms. Farley.
Yes, and also for yeah, I retract my amendment. But I do think that it would be, and maybe the chair and I just get overly excited about records and databases. But I do think that when we have these situations where there are these kind of two licenses that depend on one another for record keeping purposes, it makes sense to me to have those linked in some way. But that is not part
We
of
should
the
have a conversation at some point about all the things that we think should be in the city's database that unfortunately are not.
And printed on our alcohol licenses, especially.
Indeed. Mr. Verbeek agrees with us, by the way.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
We couldn't agree more.
So we have a motion and a second to grant item 13. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 13, change of licensed premises for 107 State is granted. Congratulations, Nathan. Have a good night. All right. I am sorry I got lost. Jim, where are we?
I think we're on 20.
Look at that.
20. Okay. Public hearing, new license for iMart stores at 5551 East Park Boulevard. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
Chair, I believe we may be on item 18, Elvino downtown.
Oh, yep. We were just starting to deal with that, and then someone showed up for the last one. Let me.
I thought we had Ms. Westra motion to refer, Mr. Fletcher seconded.
Did we
I thought
vote
we
on
passed that? Yeah.
Did we vote on that?
I believe so.
Okay. Ms. Farley, do you have any concerns?
No, sorry, it's late.
You have my empathy. All right. Item 20, iMart stores, 5551 East Park Boulevard. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
Eric Thibault is registered and wishing to speak.
All right. Eric, can you please introduce yourself, tell us what your role is in the organization, and let us know what you're proposing.
Hello, my name is Eric Thibault. I am the regional manager for iMart stores in the upper Midwest, mostly Minnesota and upper Michigan, but I am in direct contact with other stores in Wisconsin, Amory, Hudson, Wapaka, Tomahawk, Neillsville. We are very aware of each different city's nuances for applying for licenses. And we have recently acquired the Later Oil Company 9 stores out here in the Madison and surrounding areas. And this is the last license for us to be approved for. I am directly in contact with Bill Clark, who I believe is going to be the agent at the site. We have a nice BP gas station out in American Center, where a lot of the industrial businesses and hotels are. We have a very nice beer cave right inside the store, right next to our Subway and inside of our convenience store. We are looking to obtain our license so we can sell beer and accentuate some of our other items inside the store. I want to keep it as short as possible for your guys' sake, but I will answer any questions y'all have.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Ms. Farley, then Mr. Fletcher.
This is, I guess, a point of information. Were there any conditions on the previous license for this location? Do we know?
Let's see.
Let me look that up. I will say while I looked that up, I don't believe the attendee is either a member of the LLC or the agent.
There were conditions.
Watermelon.
Yes, there was one condition. The condition is that there shall be no sales of intoxicating liquor, with the exception of wine and cider.
Correct, and that is understood.
Jim, can you repeat that?
Sorry. The condition was that there shall be no sales of intoxicating liquor with the exception of wine and cider.
Thank you.
For newer members, this is very common that gas stations will apply for a Class A beer and liquor license because they want to be able to sell wine and cider, but will have a condition restricting them from using it for actual liquor, and they're just using it for the things in that gap. So this is a normal thing. Alder Verveer, then Alder Carter.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I had a question of the applicant's representative, and it was exactly on the same topic, and that is, do you intend to sell wine at this location?
I believe under the laters, there already was wine there. So I guess our intent is to continue to sell that wine. I believe it is a locally distributed one. I don't think we're carrying many varieties of it. I think it's just like one wine rack next to our beer cave that has a specific, it's a specific brand. I don't know that offhand which exactly it is, but I do know it's not like distributed from Badger Liquor or General Beer, or excuse me, General Beverage, or one of the other distributors. I think it's just something local that we have brought in. I'm sure the main goal was to just carry ciders, and that's part of it. But that business is frankly not as is not flourishing like the hard seltzers are. I don't know if the hard seltzers count as the cider aspect of it, but yes, we do carry some wine, but it's very limited. Our main goal is to sell beer, cold beer at the site.
Thank you. Yeah, very good. And just to add what our chairperson explained, we actually do have an ordinance that's been on the books here in the city of Madison for quite some time that actually prohibits the sale of spirits at locations with gas pumps. So it actually is illegal in our municipality. So we always add that condition that's on the current condition. If indeed wine is of interest, which I'm sure we have no problem with, you continuing that sale. And I believe, just to answer your question, and the legal counsel or deputy city clerk can correct me, I believe that I'm almost positive the hard seltzers are considered Class B beer. They're fermented malt beverages, technically and legally. So you don't need a cider license for those popular hard seltzers, but you certainly are allowed to have a freestanding cider license as well. That's why I was asking about the wine. It wasn't because I'm interested in what kind of wine you intend to sell. It was that you indeed were interested in the full Class A liquor license, because you don't, again, need that unless you want to sell wine at a Class A establishment.
Cool. Thank you, Alder Verveer. Ms. Westra.
Point of order, Chair.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Verbic, did you say this Eric Thibault is not the registered agent or member of the LLC? Is that an issue?
Correct. That's my
I didn't hear that. Okay.
That was going to be my bring that up is if we should be discussing this right now, or should we be discussing this right now?
Ms. Westra.
So since he is not the registered agent, and depending on what we get from Jim or Attorney Brist, I would like to move referral to our next meeting so we can have the agent or a member of the LLC here. To
I second that.
All right. Assistant City Attorney Brist. Can you help us make the determination by conversing with the applicant, please?
Well, first of all, I know that that's been our policy, what was outlined by the clerk. I think what is happening here is that this is a limited liability company that has a large business over many states, and is not the limited liability company down the street that used to be a partnership. So that may be why we're in this situation, because this particular entity was organized as a limited liability corporation and company, and as a result, under the procedures we followed, we would want the agent or the a member of the who is a member of or an officer of the LLC under our policies. But I think what's going on here is we're dealing with a large entity that is not like I said, not like the LLC down the street. So I think that our rule doesn't necessarily take that
distinguish
into
that.
consideration.
Sure. Eric, don't make me regret asking a question this broad. I invite your response.
I just, when this gets referred to next month, it's been 3.5 hours. I would just like to go first next time, if that's okay.
Mr. Verbeek can handle that. So who are the people that, who is it that we would need to talk to?
Probably Bill. Oh, sorry. Bill Clark is the store manager of 18 years at that site. So.
Okay. Alder Verveer, then Mr. Brushak.
Thank you. I just want to remind my colleagues that we have treated situations like this very recently as such where we have made exceptions. So I think the best analogous example is Quick Trip. The gentleman that has visited with us from Quick Trip from La Crosse for all of the new licenses that they've applied for in our community over the last few years is not a member of their LLC or the agent for any of the individual Madison convenience stores. He's their lobbyist, and we've allowed him to speak without asking those individual agents to appear. So I just wanted us to think about that in terms of consistency.
Yeah, it's a challenging issue.
It very much is. It's an interesting question, Chair. Yeah.
Because we want to play fairly with all applicants. Again, for our newer members, the reason why we are concerned about this is from cases that have never been large national organizations, or at least multi-state organizations. It's small local organizations where the person who comes to ALRC is not the agent, is not one of the owners. They're the owner's accountant. They're somebody's friend. They're a family member. And they don't actually have any say over the operation of the business. And thus, the conversation that we have with them does not necessarily reflect how the business will be run. And any admonitions that we give to that individual may or may not make it to who will be actually operating the business. In terms of that, I find the regional manager, who most certainly has authority over all of the individuals involved, that what they're saying is the policy is going to be the policy. That said, I will trust the decision of the committee. Mr. Bruchak.
I think we should go on with this tonight. He's been here for over 3 hours, so with that, I move tabling of the previous motion, and then so we can move on.
I will maybe be a little lighter-handed procedurally. The people, and I apologize, I don't remember who made the previous motion, but are people still interested in referring? If so, that's totally fine.
It was Western Carter.
How can you ever forget Amy and I?
I apologize. So, Sherry, Amy, are you still interested in referring? Totally legit if you want to.
I will rescind my second.
All right. Amy, do you want to withdraw your motion, or do we want to wait and see if somebody else seconds it? Either is fine.
I'll withdraw it.
All right. Colin, would you care to make a motion?
Sure. I move to grant with the condition that only wine and cider.
Using the same language that was on there before?
Yes.
Excellent. Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Fletcher. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent?
I would just, are we putting the condition on there that it's limited to wine and cider?
Yes, but using the, what was the language on the previous license?
And it's the Class A liquor license we're conditioning. We're still, as part of this motion, if I could please clarify it, we're granting a full Class A beer license too.
Correct. Jim, you're muted.
Sorry, I have company. The condition was, the condition is that there shall be no sales of intoxicating liquor with the exception of wine and cider.
Okay. And so that we don't have to have a application for a change of license conditions in a month or two, Eric, is that in line with your expectations?
If the expectations are Class A liquor license with only beer and cider, no intoxicating liquor, and wine. Let me rephrase.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, committee, you've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any dissent? Motion carries. Item 20, new license for iMart stores is granted with the same condition as on the previous license. Have a good night, Eric. Ms. Farley.
I don't know how to make this motion, but is there a way for us to make a suggestion or amendment to be able to, for the situations where we have very, very large LLCs, have a general manager or someone within those roles be a representative? I don't know how to, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Let's see. Yep. I believe that would be an excellent matter to refer to the ALRC Operating Practices Subcommittee. And what you would do is email Jim and say, we should have a meeting of that committee and this item should be on it.
Wonderful, thank you.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? I know Mr. Barshak made the motion for the last one. Who made the second for that one?
Mr. Fletcher did.
I did, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, moving right along. Item, man, you know, everybody, you know, Mike remembers this. This used to be nothing. ALRC meetings would go till midnight every time back in the day. You've all gotten spoiled. So item 21, new license for El Rancho 2 Mexican Grill at 4527 Cottage Grove Road. Do we have a registrant for this item?
We do, Teodora Rencio Torres.
Excellent. Teodora, can you please introduce yourself and let us know about the business you're proposing?
Yes, my name is Teodora Florencio Torres. I'm the owner of El Rancho 2 Mexican Grill on 4527 Cottage Grove Road. And we're just applying for a beer license.
Okay. Is this an existing restaurant that's already been running for a while?
It's been running for over 4 years. We just wanted a beer license.
Excellent. Thank you. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Any questions for the applicant?
Ms. Farley's hand is up too. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Ms. Farley, then Ms. Westra. All right, Ms. Westra. Ms. Westra, you are silent.
Move approval.
I hear a motion to approve the Class B beer license for El Rancho 2 Mexican Grill. Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for this item? Committee, is there any discussion of this item? Hearing none, is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. License is granted. Congratulations, Teodora, both on getting the license and getting through that so quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Have an excellent night.
You too.
Next up, item 22, new license for Oso Madhouse at 1817 East Wash. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
Yeah, Mark Butera is here.
All right, Mark, can you please introduce yourself and let us know what you're proposing?
Yep, so I'm Mark Butera. I'm the owner of the Oso Brewing Company. We opened the Madhouse in 2019 in April, operating as just a beer bar. We recently changed our license, our state license, from a brewery to a brew pub. What that means is in our municipalities, we now have to have a liquor license of some sort, whether it be beer or liquor. So that's what I'm trying to propose today. No change in the way we do business, doing the same thing, no change in hours. Just want to operate how we've been operating, but I need a beer license to do that.
Excellent. I had several questions, but you answered them in your introductory address. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Bruchak.
Thanks. Does the state brew pub classification, would that open the door for you to operate as a tavern at some point if you would want to?
I would have to come back to the ALRC and apply for a liquor license.
Okay. And is that in the cards for you?
Possibly.
Okay.
In our Plover location, I do have a full liquor license.
That's all for me.
Excellent. Committee, what additional questions do you have for the applicant? All right. Thank you, Mark. Jim, are there any other registrants for this item?
There are not.
Committee, what's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
I would move approval, Mr. Chair.
Your motion to grant, is there a second? Second from Ms. Westra. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. New license for Oso Madhouse is granted. Congratulations, Mark, and have a good night. All right, we already did 23. 24, new license for Pizza Hut at 7440 Mineral Point. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
We do not.
Committee, what's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
I would move referral to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Do I hear a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion?
Never mind. There was a hand raised in the attendee list. I was just curious if they were somehow got into the meeting but didn't register, but they lowered their hand. So.
All right. Thank you. So any dissent to referring item 24? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 24 is referred to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting. Item 25, new license for Nitro at 510 West Wash. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
Yes, Courtney McCarty is here.
Courtney, can you please introduce yourself and tell us what you are proposing?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Courtney McCarty. My husband Ace and I are opening a new beverage lounge on 510 West Washington Avenue. The beverages that we intend to do will both be alcoholic and non-alcoholic. We'll have morning options starting at 7 a.m. Monday through Thursday, Friday, probably opening at that 7 a.m. hour. And then as well in the evening hours, we'll about 4 o'clock p.m. switch over until or through that cocktail hour, either until 10 or midnight, depending on the day. So we're still working out some of the operational hours that works best for the location. My husband and I currently own a existing business in Madison called Luca and Livy Premium Beverages, and we own the license for the Midwest states. It is a nitrogen-infused bicycle tap system that we frequent different farmers markets with. So from that nitrogen-infused beverage mobile business, we decided that we wanted to expand into brick and mortar and bring in that cocktail option. We'll also be serving some light bites and eats. We will not be making them in-house, but we'll rather partner with local purveyors to provide those options. Something like charcuterie boards, sushi bento boxes, if available, flatbread style. And then for those morning hours, we'll partner with pastries, from Bloom Bake Shop. We'll do donuts, ideally from Greenbush, and really just work as a community together to bring a great option.
Excellent. Thank you, Courtney. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Fletcher.
Hey, good evening, Courtney. Just on question 26, the sort of live entertainment question. Solo acoustic only. Like how many days of the week are you thinking? And two, do you ever see sort of a situation where you could come where you'd even want to come back for an entertainment license because that evolves?
Possibly doing something as it evolves and growing with amplification. It's not our desire right away. We just want to have some light acoustic music. And it wouldn't be regularly during the weeks. It would be more so for maybe we'll have like a pop-up makers market that we'll work on, or maybe something for the holidays, something of that sort where we'd want to offer that entertainment option. Because it is a part of the Avenira apartment complex, it's the commercial space below it, which is being built at this time. We don't intend to have amplified music just because we want to be respectful, though we've been told by the building owner that the soundproofing should not be of any sort of issue for us if that's something that we wanted to do in the future, but not on the horizon immediately.
And then obviously kind of West Wash is sort of in the middle of a substantial student corridor down there. Can you walk through your experiences sort of thinking about that as you sort of work through this concept?
Yeah, so we know that right now that like you said, the student corridor is really amplified. Having had different conversations with both folks at the neighborhood association meeting last week, as well as the building owner, Dave Keller, and his businesses, and the actual city of Madison plans for what they're dubbing the Mifflandia area, and that redevelopment in there. So knowing that ideally in the next 3 to 5 years that there's going to be an additional apartment complex where both the price points are at for our business and our products, as well as the housing cost of living in those different complexes and the way it's being built up. I don't actually anticipate our majority of our clientele being that age group, that college corridor. I actually see it being what we see now currently with our current business, and that 30 to 40 range, potentially getting into 50 and 60. And when we are doing some additional market research through UW-Madison School of Business that helped us with our plan, that's what they had forecasted there, just given that we have state employees, there's Epic folks that are living in the area. It tends to be sort of that more upscale clientele that we'll see. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, committee, what further, Mr. Bruchak?
Are state employees upscale clientele these days? Just kidding. I'm done.
What further questions do people have for the applicant? All right, thank you, Courtney. Jim, do we have any other registrants for this item? All right, committee, what's your pleasure?
We just have Tim Camps as registered in support now, wishing to speak, and I don't even think he's here.
Okay. Alder Verveer.
Thank you. I move to grant.
Do I hear a second? Second from Ms. Westra. Any discussion?
And yes, if I may briefly, I just want to
please
share with my colleagues that the neighborhood has unanimously and warmly received these applicants at the monthly regular meeting of our neighborhood association there in the Mifflin neighborhood. So as Courtney referenced that meeting already in her testimony, just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that there was a consensus of support. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Alder Verveer. Committee, any further discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries on item 25. New license for Nitro is granted. Have a good night, Courtney. Next up, item 26, new license, Class B combo liquor and beer for Sunny Fa at 602 South Park Street. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
I don't know if the registrant's here, but Miss Kim is registered for this item. I do see a couple phone numbers in the attendees list.
Let's try to figure out which one is her.
I didn't find any match for those phone numbers, but we can view.
Can we hear from them just in case? Because I'd hate to.
Yep.
I think
9.
it's me.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
This is Catherine. I had to rejoin the call, so I don't know if that was a problem.
Oh, that's totally fine. Okay, what about the other one?
They've been here pretty much the whole meeting, and I didn't find a number for that one. I think they're just observing, and they are not.
It could be our Tavern League representative.
Okay,
Mr. Boxford.
All right, committee, what is your pleasure on item 26, Mr. Fletcher?
I would propose referring to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Your motion to refer, is there a second? Second from Ms. Westra. Any discussion? Hearing none, any dissent? Hearing none, item 26 is referred to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the ALRC. 27 is done, so item 28, summary of recent calls for service. Captain Sanders, is there anything to which you would like to draw our attention?
Well, I'll just do a brief rundown, and forgive me, it's been an incredibly long day, but I'll do a quick rundown of some of the incidents that I noted since the last time we met, and nothing too significant. However, I think they are worthy of kind of mentioning. Back on August 3rd, outside of State Street Bronx, there was a disturbance involving bouncers who did their job appropriately and not let somebody inside the bar without an ID. That individual later made threats that he was going to shoot those bouncers, and he was eventually arrested for his actions. Schwegler's 444 Grand Canyon Road on August 4th, there was a disturbance involving one of the employees who was intoxicated. Once again, the management team of bar owners did their job by letting that individual go, and officers later followed up with him, and he was arrested for his actions. Back on August 8th, Comfort Suites, 1253 John Q. Hammonds, there was a large disturbance in which there was a party that occurred. Upon officers responding, that party ended, but it was noted and highlighted via social media that there were people there with guns. And August 14th, downtown, inside of Soto, there was an individual that had went unconscious and was being held down by staff as they actually were overdosing. And officers were able to come and contact that individual and later cite him for disorderly conduct. And then the last one I would state was also on August 14th. Reference Whiskey Jack's, 552 State Street. There was an individual that was being detained by staff and asked to leave. And once again, with that business doing their job, that individual later made threats to harm staff with a knife and was taken into custody for DC while armed ×3. And that is my report. Any questions?
Dr. Reese.
Thanks for that. That was really helpful. Just one quick question. I saw somewhere on here a code that I just never noticed before, and it says strategic plan. Can you tell me what that means?
So it's something that the good Chief Barnes has implemented since he started at the Madison Police Department, which he's identified the summer months. And so it's actually technically the summer strategic plan. Going into the summer months, we make up a decision on kind of what crimes or what types of crimes that we'll be focused on addressing on a more frequent level. So for instance, this summer, for the 2022 strategic plan, we're focusing on stolen autos, shots fired, and traffic on major thoroughfares within the city of Madison.
Okay, so I'm noticing there's a bunch at Hy-Vee on Mineral Point Road at the end of July. Is there anything worth mentioning there?
Nothing worth mentioning. That I would tend to believe that those have mostly to do with traffic.
Oh, sure.
And once again, that being kind of their location that they're utilizing for the East Washington Ave. And so when you're looking at that, we also got to take in consideration that area. And that's a lot of times sort of that geographical area where the cruisers like to kind of gather and start up. So that will be why that's showing up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Reese. Committee, what other questions do you have for Captain Sanders? All right, thank you, Captain. Item 29, report of City Clerk's Office. Jim, is there anything to which you would like to draw our attention?
No, I don't have anything to add, but I'm available to answer questions.
Excellent. Well, committee, what questions do you have for Jim? All right. That brings us to our final item. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Hear a motion from Mr. Fletcher. Is there a second? Does somebody want to second? Second from Mr. Bruschak. All in favor of adjournment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same privilege. Motion carries. ALRC meeting is adjourned at 9:29 p.m. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.